Good morning. Welcome to the May 12th County Board of Commissioners meeting. First item is roll call. Roll call would show all commissioners are present. Please rise and join me in a moment of silence and a pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, first item is approval of the agenda. Any additions, corrections, Mike?
Not from administration, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Be looking for a motion.
So move.
Thank you. And don't forget to turn your microphones on. Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Clark. Any further discussion on approval of the agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next item is consent agenda. There are 19 items on the consent agenda. Anybody wishing to pull or discuss any of the items?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move the consent agenda with a comment after I get a second.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Bertram.
Second.
Turn your microphone on, please. But they can't hear you.
With the motion and the second, Mr. Chairman, I just would want to share, I think there was a lot of 19 items on the consent agenda. A lot of them were big ticket items. I had to ask, I think, 12 questions to get details. Some of this stuff, as I've said before, I think it deserves a 5 or 10 minute conversation. So let's be a little sensitive how much we put on the consent agenda. And then if you're going to put it on the consent agenda, just my advice or my suggestion is that we, give more detail. Like the applicant, we didn't see who the other applicant was. The grant dollars, we didn't see exactly who the consultant or how much that's going to be. So again, you'll never give me enough information, so let's be a little bit more, I would ask, sensitive to how much we put on, and then if we're going to put it on, have more information on it for whatever it's worth.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Bertram. Any other discussion? Commissioner Johnson.
Actually, I support what Commissioner Bertrand had to say, and I just want to comment about the entire agenda. I'm not so sure that 461 pages is all that absorbable from Friday to Tuesday. And I'm joking, I think it is, but there are some things that are very important and we need to have all the information and we need to be able to spend time with them. So an agenda in general, that thought I think needs to be considered.
Okay, thank
Thanks.
you. Any other comments? If not, no further discussion. All those in favor of approving the consent, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, everyone. The next item will be the Auditor Treasurer. Randy, I believe you have.
Yeah, I have
Items.
Sierra from my office that'll cover these items.
Good morning, Commissioners. Sierra Lorbeski, Office Services Supervisor in the Auditor Treasurer's Office. We have two public hearing for off-sale liquor licenses this morning. The first one is Pearl Lake Lodge. Andy Erdahl is here representing Erdahl Enterprises, LLC, doing business as Pearl Lake Lodge, and she is purchasing this establishment from Jessica Westling, who currently holds an on- and off-sale liquor license. Again, this is kind of procedural. We just have to do it since it's an off-sale license and state statute requires it, so.
Okay. Any,
Mr. Chairman, I'll move the approval.
we have to have a public hearing.
Oh, I suppose.
Any board comments before I open the public hearing? If not, I'll open the public hearing for testimony on the Pearl Lake Lodge request. Is there anyone here wishing to speak on that request? Anyone wishing to speak? One more time, seeing no one, I will close the public hearing. We'd be looking for a motion to approve or deny.
I'll renew my motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Commissioner Birch. Thank you, Commissioner Clark. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by
Mr.
saying.
Chair. I just have a question
Johnson.
on both this and the next approval. There was a date that was a 30-day period.
Yes.
Could you just explain, is this because they're applying for the end of this fiscal year and stuff?
Yes.
Yeah.
So since the business is under new ownership, we have to kind of treat it as if it's a new license, even though the establishment has already been there. And then liquor licenses run from July 1st through June 30th of every year. So this one, we're actually, if this gets approved, we'll start their renewal at the same time, just so that there's no lapse in their liquor license.
Yeah, that's right, so it's 13 months. Thanks.
Yep.
You do not want to cut liquor off,
Commissioner Bertram?
No.
Hardy or Pearl Lake. Yep. Good suggestion.
All right, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Good luck with your endeavor.
And then we will have one more public hearing, and it is for Opole Pub. Same situation as before, but Vanessa Pop is here on behalf of VRP Inc., doing business as Opole Pub, and this establishment was formerly Trail Ends Bar and Grill, formerly Bielka's Bar and Grill, in Holding Ford, the Opole area. So she is present for any questions. Otherwise, we could open the public hearing.
Okay, any board comments prior to? If not, I will open the public hearing for the Vanessa Pop Opole Pub liquor license request. Is there anyone here wishing to speak? Anyone here wishing to speak? Not seeing anyone. I will close the public hearing. Looking for a motion to approve or deny the request.
I'll move approval.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner Persky. Further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, just an observation, opposite sides of the county, Opole to Pearl Lake, it just shows what it all takes to make everything tick, you know, with all the licenses and having the businesses, and it's good for everybody, so.
All right, any other discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Good luck.
Okay, and then for our last item, I'm bringing the tobacco ordinance, or tobacco control ordinance number 704 back to you guys from the last meeting. I gave you guys a couple different options and some further information regarding the minimum clerk age as well as the coupon price and promotion. I know there was some discussion amongst you guys last time, so I just wanted to bring it back so you guys could finish that discussion.
Commissioner Clark.
Mr. Chair, last time I had to leave because my mom was in the emergency room. And I'm wondering if it's possible, I know you said you brought forward a couple options. Did public health bring forward those same options?
Yes,
or-
yes,
Okay,
and
so
they're-
it's together.
Yes, we're all
Wanted to make
together.
sure. And
just-
I don't know if there's a preferred option. I just for the, okay, I'm looking, okay, thank you. I'm seeing.
Well, I think there was some consideration with the age, especially having it at 18, so you can move that to 16 or not have any age requirement at all to sell products. And then also on the use of coupons and discounts, I believe the board had some support for leaving that in, but I guess I'll let the board figure out what they want to do with that. So.
Okay, those are the main two items for consideration. Commissioner Johnson?
Mr. Chair, can we consider those two items separately?
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody have any comments? Commissioner
Mr.
Bertram?
Chairman, as I shared last time on the age, I think Joyce Mansky brought up some good issues, and how, of course, when we looked at the neighboring counties, the same thing, you know, a lot of them don't have anything. I think we should have something. I think 16 is reasonable. The stations, ironically, and I hope it was a coincidence, but one of the Jack locations did get a sting operation on this after that last meeting, and they passed, and they have 16-year-olds that work for them. The concern is it's hard to find people that, you know, that are 18, 19, much less 16, to work in some of these stores. Just since their last meeting, I interacted with, and of course, they're not selling tobacco, but if you go to the Red Onion in Belgrade, or you go to the Dairy Freeze in New London, they're 13, 14, 15-year-old people working there, and of course, they're not selling tobacco. But the reality is a lot of these businesses have to tap into whomever they can find who are good workers. And as I shared last time, I would trust a lot of 16-year-olds, again, that are responsible over 50-year-olds that are irresponsible. So the age, and I think the neighboring counties show that that's not the magic number necessarily. Now, this only applies to to facilities that are not in the city limits. However, there's a concern that if we do it, then the cities think that they have to follow what we do. Well, it could bleed over into that. So I don't think it's, at least, and I haven't heard from the sheriff's office that this has been an issue where illegal sales have been going on. So I would suggest that we set it at 16. Again, I think we should have an age. Not having an age would be fairly open, but I think 16 is a responsible age.
Commissioner Clark?
Thank you. For me, where my struggle is for some of those places being able to get somebody who's 18. I actually do think it'd be better if it was 18, then they're legally able to purchase them. There's lots of good reasons for doing it, and I notice of our neighboring counties, Wright is at 21, and Sherburne is at 18, and Morrison, relatively neighboring, is at 18. Hennepin's at 16. I think that's interesting. So we would oddly be joining Hennepin. For different reasons, though, right? So, I personally would feel more comfortable if it was 18, and I recognize the practicality for some places. It is hard when you're 16 at times if you've got somebody who's just a little bit older than you, pressuring you to buy something. That doesn't mean that people who own the establishments wouldn't be working hard with that teenager.
And Commissioner Clark, that was part of the conversation, was the peer pressure on a 16-year-old last meeting.
Yeah, a lot of peer pressure. That's a lot to put on somebody.
Commissioner Johnson?
I would like to move that we make the age 16.
I'll second that. Like I said, I prefer the other, but.
Okay,
And
we have a motion and a second discussion.
my comment is this. I think there are 3 or 4 things that this is really dependent on. One is hiring good people to do the work. The second is training them well. And then the responsibility of ownership to really supervise and make sure people are doing a good job. I think age becomes irrelevant when you do those things and do them in a purposeful, intentional way that is really strong. I think these folks need employees, and young people need the experience and the job. And I think to limit it to a certain age is problematic in both those instances. So I think this can be done and done well, and it's like anything else. It has to be monitored, and that's the responsibility of the owners of the establishments.
And it would have been interesting too, just to see how many cities have an age limit. Maybe none of them have really addressed it. I'm not sure, but other comments? Commissioner Persky?
Yes, I've taken a look at it, I guess, from where the other counties, many of them are at 18. And I think about having a 16-year-old in an establishment, and they're the only one in that place. And what that means for the vulnerability for them and for the establishment. That's a lot of pressure to put on a 16-year-old. I would be much more comfortable if it was 18, but we'll see, where you folks are citing that, yeah, it's hard to get help, and it's a place for these folks to be employed, and yes, that can happen, but there could also be an 18-year-old in the building, in the facility, that could sell the product, so.
Okay, Commissioner Clark?
Mr. Chair and Commissioner Persky, I obviously agree that 18, I do think 18 would be better in not even a perfect world. There's a lot of good reasons to do 18. I think would just note that if we start hearing of problems, this is something that could be modified. And I agree with Commissioner Bertram, having an age listed makes sense. So that's why, I mean, I do think for some of these areas, it may be hard to find an 18-year-old.
Well, then perhaps my no vote would be a reason also to bring it back if there is a problem.
It would actually be interesting if the sheriff's department would have any info on any of those age type of things when they're doing their checks.
Yeah, and Mr. Chair, I'm also very concerned about the peer pressure of friends coming in and saying, well, sell me the smokes, and that's what's going to happen, so.
Okay? Any-
And Mr.
Commissioner
Chairman,
Bertram?
that peer pressure, Commissioner Persky and others, happens all the time.
Correct.
It happens in the bars, it happens when you're doing off sale, it happens when you're doing on sale. And again, that's the check. Most businesses are adamant about the training because it could affect them by not getting a license, by, a lot of things. So, and we haven't talked about it yet, but it's probably going to come up with the coupons. As I said last time, we seem to be so concerned about this, and yet we gave it an open checkbook to pot. The regulation of that is going to be interesting, but the counties, we like to look at what, and Commissioner Clark mentioned this, we like to look at what other counties are doing around us because it does affect us. Todd County, nothing. Morrison County, nothing. And when I say nothing, there's no age. I don't see an age on Morrison County. Age of 16.
18.
Morrison County, my information says 16.
And our packet says 18. Sorry, Mr. Chair.
Oh,
Mr. Chair,
it says 16.
mine says 18. I'm looking at it.
Oh,
Well-
Sorry, in 2016, the minimum clerk age was 16. As of now, it's 18.
Okay, well,
And Mr. Chair, Commissioner Bertram, this is like so far, like we're not in this list right now either, so we don't know what others are doing.
well, Mr. Chairman, we know what Todd, Morrison, Benton, Sherburne, Wright, Douglas, Meeker, Hope,
if you
and
can
they're all nothing.
go down for
Most of them are nothing.
go to the next page.
So again, I think we should have something, but and again, unless we're getting different packets, what I see is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. Some of this isn't real clear. 5,
I'm wondering.
6, 7, nothing. 7 nothings
That was in
around us.
26, I mean, it looks like, maybe you could clarify for us, because we have a
Yeah.
list that you've highlighted on the page before.
So yes, this list, the one with the highlights, that is the 41 jurisdictions in the state of Minnesota that do set a clerk age. The highlighted ones are counties. I think the rest of the ones on there are cities. And then the second page, that is specifically our surrounding counties. Some of the notes in there are kind of important because all of the wording's obviously a little bit different. But I tried to put in quotations like what exactly those neighboring counties' ordinances state. So yeah, for example, Morrison County, their 2016 ordinance did have a clerk age of 16, and they recently raised it to 18 in 2021. And then another thing in there that's important to note is that Wright County does set a minimum clerk age of 21, but that is specifically for tobacco shops, not all convenience stores, etc. It's just specifically those tobacco shops. So they're all a little bit different. And then it's also important to notice, like I put on there, Meeker County and Douglas County, even though they have nothing, their ordinances are very outdated. So Meeker County hasn't updated their ordinance since 2010, and Douglas County has not updated their ordinance since 2016. So they both still have an ordinance that says you can purchase tobacco products at the age of 18. And as of 2020, now it's 21. So those are just some important things to notice. But yeah, it varies a lot from county to county on what they're all doing.
Mr. Chairman, Can I ask Sarah, why is on the list that you gave with the highlighted, why aren't a lot of the counties that you put on the other list, Todd, Douglas, I don't see, all the counties you identified in one list aren't on the full list.
Just because the highlighted list, that comes from the Public Health Law Center, so that's all the jurisdictions, whereas the second list is the neighboring counties that surround Stearns County.
So I don't understand, Mr. Chairman, why they wouldn't be on that full list.
So like, if they don't have anything set in place, then they wouldn't be on the full list, if that makes sense.
They're not on the public health.
Got it.
Right, because if
Site.
they don't have anything in their ordinance, then it just pops up with nothing.
Yep. Randy?
Just, I guess, review, right now, we have nothing, right? So 16 would be adding an age. And then compliance checks are going to start happening more frequently, and you will see those at renewal time if there was issues. So, and then you could do something at that point, right? You can always change it.
And then Randy, one other question. How many of these establishments do we monitor roughly?
18.
18. So we're talking 18.
Yeah.
Okay. Commissioner Johnson, did you have your hand up?
I did, thank you, Mr. Chair. I think it's nice to have these lists as a barometer, except I'm going to go back to the fact that I think employees and owners come in all ilks. Some are absolutely impeccable in how they do their work. Some are not. I think age is not that significant a factor, to be honest with you. I've met some 16-year-olds that I would depend on more than some 30 and 40 and 50-year-olds and some of my peers who may even be older than that. I think it's how the work is done, who's hired to do it, how they're trained, and checking them, making sure that we're monitoring. And that's what every good business person really wants to do.
Okay. So just to clarify, the motion is to establish a clerk age of 16. Is that correct, Mr. Johnson? Okay. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Roll call?
Commissioner Johnson? Aye. Commissioner Clark?
Aye.
Commissioner Persky?
Nay.
Commissioner Bertram?
Aye.
Commissioner Notch?
Aye.
Passes 4-1.
Okay, thank you. Motion carries 4-1. Second item is the coupon price promotion.
So right now, that is in the ordinance, so if you do nothing, you just have to pass the ordinance. If you'd like to change that, that's up to the board.
And Mr. Chairman, that clarification is, it's in the ordinance to forbid them.
You're right.
Yep.
Oh,
I'll make a motion to pass the ordinance
to leave it the same?
Second.
and leave
Okay.
the,
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. Further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I don't have that big of a feeling on it, but again, we can stick our hand in the sand. You can go to any county around us. If you got a coupon, again, to use the pot analogy, you can give me all the coupons you want for pot. I'm not going to go use the coupon. If I'm not a smoker, I'm not going to use the coupon. I'm not going to say, oh, God, they're taking $5 off a $20 pack. I'm going to start smoking. And then if you want to use a coupon, you're going to go to where all the other counties around us that allow it. So it's not a big deal, but it looks good, might feel good, but we're really not addressing it. Plus the online stuff, all that stuff. And if I really, really want it, you're going to find a guy that's, or a gal that's of age and going to use a coupon, buy the cigarettes and give it to you. So, I mean, the question you had before, Mr. Chairman, I think is legitimate, not for today, but the sheriff's here. I'd like to have them report how many incidents have we had with the 18 facilities that we do control. And then I'd like to know what the cities are doing. Again, it's after the fact, but it would be informational for us to know what I think most cities, and the only reason we're talking about this, guys, is because in the original information that was presented, with all due respect, it said the state standard was 18, and it was not. So that's why we said, wait a minute, what's the facts here? So that's why we're talking about this. But on the coupon part of it, like I said, it's not a major deal, but let's not, if we vote against the coupons, don't think that you're stopping smoking, because we're not.
Okay, Commissioner Persky?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, just taking off from his last comment, my question is, what are we trying to get from withholding the ability to use the coupons? What's the purpose of withholding the ability to use the coupon? What are we trying to achieve?
Commissioner Johnson?
I may not answer your question directly, but I'm thinking about this from a public health perspective. Most smokers want to quit. They're addicted. People who use coupons are 84% less likely to quit. Tobacco companies are spending somewhere between $800 million and $1 billion a year on things like coupons. It has an impact on the population in general. And I think it's really, really important that we look at that big picture. That impacts the costs of health care. It impacts families who are seeing people suffering and dying. I think generally speaking, we need to do whatever we can to support what has continued to be a national effort to stop smoking. Just this morning, the New York Times reported that vaping is now going to be available in fruit and candy flavors. The purpose of that is to attract young people. We don't want to do that. And I think even the smallest little step is important, which is why we need to make sure that the ordinance prohibits coupons.
So Randy, the motion is just confirming what our ordinance basically says, that coupons.
My understanding, the motion would be accepting all the changes and approving the ordinance.
Mr. Chair, yes.
Yes,
Okay, all right.
including the 16.
Right, correct.
Right now, the prohibition on coupons is
Would
in the
stay.
ordinance, so that would stand, yes.
Okay. Commissioner Clark?
And Mr. Chair, Commissioner Johnson actually just very well said all the things that I would have said even better, so thank you for that. I do want to point out Benton County does also have a prohibition. I don't know if Sherburne is looking at having one, and those are the ones that we're most likely, right? I don't know if they're looking at it, it's not in their current one. But the issue of coupons absolutely has an impact on people choosing to be selling it. And let's face it, part of the reason why tobacco taxes are so high is to try to get people to quit. And so I think that those pieces together, maybe it will help us continue to have more of a quilted approach. It may be better if it was blanket, but we're not there as a state yet. So that's why I support it. And frankly, I'd support putting in here that we would also ban it for pot. So just because they don't have them yet doesn't mean they're not going to.
Okay. Thanks for the discussion. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Say it again. I'll approve it.
Okay.
And I'm voting against it. Is it the ordinance or is it the coupon issue?
The ordinance.
Why don't you do the motion over again then? I thought when Commissioner Johnson said, let's take them up separately, I thought we voted on the age and we were going to vote on the coupon and then the ordinance, but I misunderstood that, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're going to leave the ban on coupons effective in the ordinance.
And then it's 16.
And Mr. Chairman, just to clear up what you said, Randy, currently, it's not in the ordinance.
It is in the ordinance,
In our current ordinance?
yes.
Yes.
So there's no change?
No,
Right.
But the age was a change,
right.
okay?
We did not have any age in there before at all, and now we have 16.
At the last meeting, we talked about allowing coupons or not allowing coupons, which would be a change to our
Right.
existing
That would be a
ordinance.
change, yes.
So with that clarification, if you don't mind, maybe we should do the motion over
Okay.
again if we could, because the motion then to clarify is to approve the ordinance.
Yes, the motion is,
With,
right. The motion is to approve the ordinance with adopting the proposed changes. So that would include it being at 16, requiring a minimum age of 16, but it also would include the ban on coupons as we currently have.
Which is current. Okay,
correct. Okay,
let's try that again.
all those in favor of.
Mr. Chair, if I can comment on it. I just, Commissioner Johnson's comments about wanting people not to be smoking. And the ill effects of that are right on. But my concern, though, is free enterprise and the ability for individuals to make those choices. And also the fact that some folks in low income, even though they smoke, it's difficult for them to pay for those cigarettes. And so it's punitive to them to do that, but they're still going to do it. So that's where I'm coming from.
Okay. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thanks for the good discussion on that item, because obviously smoking is very costly, along with other vices. With that, we will recess our regular meeting and open the Human Services Board meeting.
All right.
Welcome, Melissa.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Melissa Huberty, I'm the Human Services Administrator. There's only one item on our regular agenda today, and it's item H1 on page 330. And the Public Health Departments of Benton, Sherburne, and Stearns County request approval to form a joint collaborative agreement to receive Minnesota Department of Health Innovation and Infrastructure grant funds. And I thought it would be worthwhile to have our Human Services Director over Public Health, Janet Gologowski, to just spend 5 minutes explaining what that all means so that you understand. And with that, I'll just pass it right on over to her. At the end, we also have some updates from public health perspective to just make sure the board is aware of.
Okay,
With that.
thank you. Morning, Janet.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Thank you for having me today. I will try to make this as clear as possible. Again, as Melissa has indicated, we have an opportunity to accept state innovation grant funding. This is not federal funding. This is state innovation grant funding to support our regional 3-county partnership. Okay. So the Joint Collaborative Agreement, JCA, enhances our Central Minnesota Alliance, CMA. Our Central Minnesota Alliance is Benton, Sherburne, Stearns, and we partner with our healthcare system, Centricare. This is an informal partnership that currently has been very long-standing, 15-plus years, where we have worked collaboratively to maximize and leverage all of the relationships that we have within the city of St. Cloud and our outlying partnerships in order to create our mandated community health improvement plan. The last plan, I believe we presented to the board, and it was approved in July of 2025. Excuse me. The CMA partnership was formed to help us develop and educate, sustain, analyze, train, survey, collaborate, and bridge partners so that we can share those resources. It's a 3-year-long active cycle to produce our mandated CHIP plan every 3 years. The CHIP is not only state mandated for counties, there are federal mandates as well for that, including the healthcare system. We do a 3-year cycle because hospitals are required to have their community health improvement plan every 3 years. The MDH Innovative Grant funding will allow us to create a coordinated data management and analysis and support those efforts. Currently, we all come together, we do our analysis together, and we don't have a regional embodiment of expertise in both of those areas. So what this will allow us to do is actually hire 2 FTEs. And when I say we, I'm using that as more like the royal we, in that Benton County will be the grant recipient. We are the first county of the 3 to present to our boards regarding this joint collaborative agreement. We've been working on it quite some time through our county attorneys. They're all on the signatory. The grant, we would not enter into the joint collaborative agreement without or until all 3 counties have approached their boards and signed. We are aware that a question was broached regarding some confusion or disagreement at the Benton County Board regarding their role of being the grant recipient. They are currently working through that, and I just wanted to assure you all, if all 3 counties do not sign the agreement, it is not effective. So I just want to make sure that that is above board and out there. What this funding would support, again, is a very unique environment. The CMA, our Central Minnesota Alliance Partnership, is unique to the state. There aren't any other counties that I'm aware of at this point that are doing an alliance something like this. It might even be unique nationally. I'm not entirely sure of that, but we haven't found any other collaborative that works like coordinating this. What we really want to do is be able to create a focused work on that data management and analysis of that data. It's interesting, in the previous conversation, I think data collection was mentioned several times. That is the work that we do in public health and through the CMA in many areas. We collect data on all sorts of kinds of things and activities that are related to the health of our communities, longevity, population health, diseases, maternal child health, prenatal health, tobacco, the tobacco ordinances, we participate in that. I think another question that came up was regarding public health education for owners and employees. That is something public health and our staff do as well. And we do that again, maximizing those opportunities across all 3 of our counties and engaging in education that has been agreed upon by all of us, so we're not confusing those operators that live close to our county lines. And then, again, the funding does not replace any current responsibilities or activities. The FTEs would be hosted by Benton County. Thusly, we would see no increase in our FTEs here in Stearns. So by way of reminder today, we are requesting approval to enter into the joint collaboration agreement. And if you have more questions regarding this, I'm happy to answer those.
Thanks, Janet. Collaborating, in my opinion, that is definitely probably a benefit versus always going it alone, because obviously different people have different ideas. So, in my opinion, this would probably be a good test case to see, how this will work. Commissioner Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Microphone.
Thank you. I'm going to move approval, and with a comment, I can certainly wait until there's a second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second by Commissioner Johnson. Discussion.
Yeah, I agree. Collaboration is a good thing, and if we can actually spread it, and because these 3 counties, we are so bound together by our populations moving back and forth, our businesses. I mean, it can help us really better understand and learn from each other, which is good. And with CenterCare, I mean, right now CenterCare has a trove of information, data that we don't always get a chance to see, and by partnering together, not just for the purposes, they're significant, for public health to be learning and analyzing and figuring out better partners, but for this board and our region to actually better information so we can figure out where the best places are to be making investments or how we can mitigate some of the challenges that are being faced. So thank you for bringing this forward. I'm excited about it.
Commissioner Johnson.
I was excited when I read the words data management
Yes.
and analysis.
Amen.
We've seen with the platforms that the state uses for Medicaid and SNAP an inability to aggregate data, to analyze it, and help us make decisions. So I was excited about that part. And if we can do that as a tri-county, was it 3 counties?
3 counties and CenterCare, correct?
CenterCare, yeah, 3 counties and CenterCare. I know CenterCare is very supportive of this kind of work and collects a lot of data and provides that for others for decision-making, and it's really important. So I'm in strong support of this.
Any further discussion? Commissioner Bertram?
Mr. Chairman, so the rumor was accurate about Benton.
They were having a discussion about a different contract that pertains to Benton only, that got caught up in this discussion too. They have not brought the joint collaborative agreement to their board yet.
Got it.
is my
And then,
understanding.
Mr. Chairman, based on what you said, if they don't agree to be the fiscal agent, then you're going to regroup or something.
Correct, yep. Yep, if they don't agree to be the recipient or host or fiscal agent, whatever terminology, to accept the grant, there would be no other structure available to accept those funds.
Because, Mr. Chairman, I almost fell out of my chair when I saw that we weren't going to be the fiscal agent on it because we are the fiscal agent on everything. So I was happy to hear that. And then I heard that Benton didn't make that decision yet. And I thought, okay, what I'm afraid of, I certainly support this, but we don't need to add number 59 to fiscal agents. So if it doesn't work, then make Sherburne do it or somebody else do it.
This three-county collaborative, I can see some of you who might be more familiar with our other agreements. Sherburne is our fiscal agent for our family home visiting programs, our maternal children's health for 4 counties, which also helps create some confusion as well. So yeah, the 3 counties constantly are trying to share and move that around, so one county isn't always, like you said, be the fiscal agent for 59 entities and somebody else isn't doing any. So we definitely have those conversations, Commissioner Bertram.
Mr. Chairman, Randy, I'm going to ask you, I will ask you now, make a list of all the fiscal agents that we are, and then I'd like to have a list of all the fiscal agents that we aren't in collaborative agreements that we're. Today, we're eliminating the Watershed one, so that's a good move, and not being it in this one is a good move. So we're in the right direction in my mind, but I'd be curious on those 2 questions. Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion, Commissioner Johnson?
I'm just going to do a Bertranism here.
You did that, Mr. Chairman. Bob, when you said that you liked the information and I thought, boy, that's something I'll never say.
When Janet used the royal we, does that mean we have to refer to her as Your Majesty?
Yes,
Or maybe Melissa?
absolutely.
Good luck with that.
All right, Commissioner Burgess.
Mr. Chair, just to say I'm in strong support of this. Anytime we can deal working with our neighbors, especially with the human issues, it's very important. Those issues oftentimes cross the boundary, cross the cities, and they don't recognize those boundaries, but the problem's there, the issues are there, and we need to all be working cooperatively to settle and deal with those issues.
All right, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, we also want to do a quick update on Family Resource Centers. We intend to come back at the end of July or the beginning of August, and we want to foreshadow that where we're at now, and that we'll be coming back to talk about that in the beginning of August probably. So with that, our chief strategist, which is what another term we call her, is Ms. Golagowski can give the update.
Her Majesty, the Chief Strategist, is happy to help you out with the Family Resource Centers. So in all seriousness, we have engaged consultants for about the last year and a half working to, again, help us gather data regarding the needs within Stearns County related to helping communities and or organizations stand up a center or a collective place for that community to decide what its needs are. The county's role in this is to write the grant to the philanthropic foundation, the Sauer Foundation, supporting this, hire the consultants, and then I work with the consultants to assure that they're out in the community, they're gathering information, they're doing focus groups. Some of you may have seen an invitation to steering committees. The latest one, just to call out quick, is May 20th. If you want an invite, please let me know. But in the end of this year and a half, phase 1, which is an assess and explore time, we will have a formal report that the consultants will be presenting to the board. preferably towards the end of this summer. And it's a very unique report. I just want to give you a quick little glimpse. We've broken Stearns County into various areas and dug very deep into some of the indicators in the community that highlight need. The second phase of this would be a development grant, again funded by the Sauer Foundation. None of these are encumbering any additional FTEs. It's supportive. And the grant pays for the consultants. The development stage would be encouraging organizations, communities, entities, partnerships that wish to learn more about a family service center, what we might need to do in those stages to stand that up. The unique thing about our family resource centers is it engages 5 protective factors. This is a national, nationwide evidence-based, and I don't mean evidence-based that sometimes we throw around. I mean evidence-based in terms of there's qualities of standards and deep data collection on this. The end result is to try to significantly impact through preventative services and serving your own community through your own needs decision-making, a lessening of and or decrease in some of our child protection services. And Colorado has been able to prove that to some degree. So we're hoping to engage in that. There would then be a third phase as well, and the third phase would be implementation. So we have plenty of time for people to get interested and to look at this runway. But I just wanted to really foreshadow that the final data report on our assessment will be sometime later this summer.
And Mr. Chair and Commissioners will be sharing that with you, some of the highlights of that report, because I anticipate it's going to be, whoever said 481 pages.
It'll be very long.
A little much to digest. But we'll come back, present that, and then we'll be asking for approval to apply for the next phase of funding at that time. We anticipate that'll be about late July or early August.
We'll look forward to it.
All right.
All right.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Melissa.
We're
Thanks,
done.
Janet.
If you have no further questions.
Well, seeing none,
All
thank
right.
you very much.
Thank you so much.
All right. All right, with that, we will close the Human Services Board and reconvene our regular county board meeting. The next item is Public Works. Would this be His Majesty Chris Bird?
No, you just call me, hey, you. Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
The first item I have before you is an item that traditionally we would have put just on a consent item, but I believe that this item deserves a little additional discussion. This would be authorizing the final payment towards a construction project. This project was the CSAH 75 bridge replacement out there by where the new Justice Center is being built. Final payment was originally authorized this past fall, and a payment was made to the contractor. However, after that payment was made, an error was discovered, and that the contractor actually received about a $1,500 deduct per our spec. Our road specs a lot of times have an incentive and a decentive on the bituminous pavement based on the density that they're able to achieve when they're placing that and compacting that. In this particular case, there was a portion of the pavement that received a deduct, and that was not caught. Once it was discovered, the contractor, Lunda Construction out of Rosemont, Minnesota, was contacted, and they did issue us a check back for the amount of that deduct, which the exact amount was $1,551.42. So, just like any other government operation, we've got to have the paperwork correct. So what I have before you today would be an amended or a corrected final contractor payment. And so we don't actually owe the contractor any money, but we do need to have the final payment signed by the board reflect the correct dollar amount. So that's the item that I'm asking for the board to approve today, is to approve this revised final payment amount that shows, I want to pull this number up so I have it correct, that the contractor received total payment to date $4,562,433.70. That is the total owed and has been paid to the contractor for this construction project.
Okay. Can we get a motion to approve?
So moved.
I'll second.
Commissioner Clark, thanks. Commissioner Bertram, any discussion on this item? Commissioner Johnson?
I just have one question, Chris. I'm glad this was discovered, and I think it's a good sign. Can you tell me how that happened, how it was discovered?
Yeah, so this project receives state and federal funding for it. So once we do all of our paperwork, they withhold about 10% of the funding until they do their audit. And I believe that's how it was caught. They were auditing and noticed that actually in this payment, you can see it towards the back, there's a line item for disincentive of this amount. And it was noticed that the total payment on the front did not include that deduct. So actually this happened all before I got there, but we did receive a check shortly after the first of the year for this amount, and we just...
Was it the state that discovered it or the feds?
I think it's a state employee on behalf of Federal Highway Administration auditing the final payment, so.
Good, thank you. Thanks.
Okay, any further discussion?
Yeah, Mr.
Otherwise,
Chair. Yeah,
Commissioner
Chris,
Persky?
are there going to be any ill effects from the lack of control on that issue or what actually took place?
No, I don't anticipate it. When you look at a $4.5 million project, it was a $1,500 oversight. It's kind of small in scope. And it's something that's not bid into the project. It's automatically part of the spec. So it's something that our inspectors, as they're inspecting the work, they enter this data into a spreadsheet and it gets added to this payment. It was just a simple oversight, and I don't anticipate any ill effects or withdrawal of future grant funds or anything like that because of this.
Okay. And we did receive $1 million of congressional directed spending for that project,
that bridge,
which
yes.
is something we should always be looking for when we come to projects.
That's correct. Yeah, so we can stand in front of the public today and say we did not overpay the contractor on this, and they only received what they were owed.
Commissioner Bertram?
Mr. Chairman, first of all, Chris, thank you for not putting it on the consent agenda and explaining it. It's something unique. I think it deserves to be explained. And to Commissioner Johnson's point, it shows all of us and the public that these things are being checked, cross-checked, as they should be. $4 million for anything is a lot of money on any account. So two good news items. One, you're bringing it to us and talking about it, and two, that it was caught and now being taken care of, so.
Okay, I will look for a vote. All those in favor of the motion to approve the final payment for CSAH 75 Bridge, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Motion carried. Thanks, Chris.
All right, very well. We'll move on to the next item. Maybe not as good news. So right now, there is a second solicitation open in ATP 3, which kind of coincides with MnDOT District 3 for the Carbon Reduction Program, or commonly known as CRP. What happened is last fall, when this was normally solicited, there was quite a bit of unallocated funds. They did not receive enough applications for all the Carbon Reduction Program dollars allotted for ATP 3. So they opened up a second solicitation about a month ago, a little over a month ago. And one of the projects that we thought would be a good candidate was the Beaver Island Trail Extension, a project that the Parks Department and the Highway Department has been working on to get a kind of a spur off the Beaver Island Trail over to Warner Lake Park. This trail would be adjacent to a township road and then adjacent to County Road 143. The issue is, it hits I-94 and then must cross a MnDOT-owned bridge over I-94. This Carbon Reduction Program grant does require that when a portion of your project goes into another agency's right-of-way, you need to have a letter of support from that agency to accompany your grant application. The grant application is due this Friday. And so we've been working in cooperation with our consultant, Widseth, and communicating with MnDOT on this project. Well, as of right now, there's too many unanswered questions in MnDOT's opinion for them to be able to offer a letter of support to accompany a grant application for this project. That doesn't mean they're saying no to the project. We essentially need to do a little bit more homework. Some of the big issues with that bridge is right now it's carrying 2 lanes of a rural county highway that's high speed. It's the statutory speed of 55 miles an hour. There's some minimum design standards for shared use pedestrian bicycle paths, and we essentially can't fit that onto the bridge with the existing lane configuration. We've looked at narrowing that up. We've also looked at the fact that you have pedestrians next to a high-speed roadway. Do we need to have a concrete barrier that separates traffic from the bicyclists? That adds additional weight to the bridge that MnDOT needs to analyze to make sure that that bridge can handle that additional weight and not affect the capacity of the bridge. So there's a lot of things that we'll continue working on. It just, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to have those answers before this grant solicitation, which is a unique solicitation. That doesn't mean maybe by the fall, when the traditional grant process normally kicks off for some of the other grants, maybe we have some of those answers. I just know that this was a unique situation. Some of us here thought that it would be a good candidate for this project. It just, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to submit an application. So I just wanted to be open and transparent with the board that at this time we can't submit an application for this Beaver Island Trail project.
And Chris, is that all grant funded when these projects? Or is there a match or what?
Yeah, very good question. So the carbon reduction program would require at least a 20% match. Some of our preliminary estimates put the project at about $1 million. So the county would need to come up with, $200,000 to match that grant. And so we don't know where that would come from yet. Just another thing that we'd have to do our homework on and look for possible sources of that local match as well.
So basically you'd be looking for us a concurrence of, do we keep this on the table or put it on the back burner, or doesn't that matter? You're just giving us information.
Well, I think at this point, just information. In working with Ben from Parks, he does have some money allocated to continue the design process. So I think that may be in our best interest as a county, is to continue doing some more of this preliminary design, get to a preferred alternative, as we call it, and say, yes, this is what we want to pursue. MnDOT, please look at our design and make sure it works on your bridge and give us that okay to cross your structure. And then pursue funding opportunities.
So it can't just stop before the bridge as a project.
You're right, that actually did cross my mind. The problem is, would those reviewing grant applications would they tend to reject it because we just stop short
got a big
and don't get to the
fence
actual
there.
park that's the ultimate goal and stuff. So,
You'd have to park there and walk onto it.
Yeah.
Because isn't there a sidewalk on that bridge?
No, it's just,
there is no
it's just
sidewalk.
shoulders.
Okay.
So two
Yeah.
12-foot lanes and shoulders outside
Oh.
of that. So,
Yeah, it makes it difficult.
yeah. But those are some things we talked about. Do we just stop the trail and put bridges or signs on either end of the bridge and say, bike path ends? We've seen how traffic responds to signs. People would tend to probably still ride their bikes across that bridge, even though it's being
Right.
discouraged. So,
Yeah,
Mr. Chair,
That's a good plan.
But to that point, how safe is it now? Because we are completing the Beaver Island Trail to the park or to the place where we need the addition, and we also have it, of course, coming from Clearwater in that direction.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a destination, and how safe is it right now? So even by not putting the path in, it's more dangerous than not having it. We've been on this issue probably since I've been on the Park Commission, 10 years. We've got 2 park commissioners that are here in the audience and the park director as well. And it's something that has been a priority to complete as we complete the Beaver Island Trail, because it will be a destination. And so not to have a plan to move forward to make it anywhere safer just keeps it as dangerous as it is. And so as we maybe don't meet the deadline for this application, by all means, I think we should continue to pursue it because again, it's been on the table there for such a long time. It's been the vision. St. Cloud is finishing their Heatherwood, which will complete that project. And so how do we make it safer? Is it something we've looked at? why would we not want to continue to pursue it? And I appreciate having Chris take a look at that, because in our mind, it is feasible that we could restripe it and at least make it somewhat safer. And it's just a matter of MnDOT saying yes or no. And those dollars are out there to be had. And so this did provide an opportunity for us to do that. One thing we may want to do, though, is as far as signage is concerned, we may want to have signage out there. Because when that Beaver Island Trail is completed, that's going to draw more people, I believe, out there to the park and to make it safer. So by all means, I think we should continue to pursue it. If it's not going to be in this grant opportunity, I think we should try to posture to have it in for the next grant opportunity.
Which I think is kind of what Chris is saying, is we can't do it now, but in the future. Commissioner Johnson?
Is federal carbon reduction program funding available on an annual basis? Would we look at working with MnDOT and trying to apply for that particular grant, perhaps in the next year?
Yeah, so it was open in the fall of 2025 was the grant app, and then it was in this current federal transportation bill that we're in, it has been an annual program. What you hear at the federal level is that that is expired now, and we're hoping for a new multi-year federal transportation program. So it could change, but right now we're anticipating another maybe solicitation next year, so or later this fall.
So working with MnDOT and going after the same thing in the fall, and or finding other sources of potential funds could both go on simultaneously as you continue that planning with Ben's money.
Yeah, there's other grant opportunities. There's the Transportation Alternatives Program, which would be a good fit. The state has a grant program called Alternative Transportation, so you just flip it. Instead of TA, it's AT. That's state money. So there's other opportunities that traditionally have been open in the fall of the year.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Clark?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I'm excited about this project. I actually do hear about this project from folks both in my district, but throughout our county and region. This is something people have been interested in, and really appreciate the Parks Commission ongoing work on it. A question I have is whether, if we can't come up with the right way to get a letter from MnDOT, do we need to pursue some type of policy change next year at the legislature, and or perhaps look at bonding funds? And you don't have to answer right now, just something to think about. You know, there's just so much red tape.
Yeah, it is. It's that structure. If it was completely a county road, and that's the other thing, it's a county road, not a CSAH, so it's not eligible for state aid allotment funds. I'm not suggesting that we take ownership of the bridge, but it would be a different story if we owned all the infrastructure out there. So, but right now, MnDOT is a stakeholder in the project, you could say. So we'll have to continue vetting those avenues until we can't anymore.
Sounds good. More to come.
Mr.
All right,
Chairman.
the next item,
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Bertram.
two things. One, I don't think any grant E is going to allow you to stop at a bridge, and the only way I know that is with the Lake Coronis Trail. We crossed 5 bridges, and there had to be a very specific design to have the pedestrian traffic either in a allowed span on the bridge or beside the bridge.
Sure.
So I'm not an engineer, but from experience in that project, they're not going to grant it knowing you're going to just end it. They're going to want a plan, I think. And then 2, it's good to hear the support. The next one with Paynesville, I don't think we're going to be doing any financial support there. With the $200,000, knowing we're going to need $200,000, I hope board members can do what I did on the Coronis Park and raise half of that privately. If there's enough support for it and a drive to do it, if we start thinking about doing that early enough, that will even help our grant opportunities, because if they know that we've already got $100,000 of private money raised to do the match, because there's always going to be a match.
Yeah.
So rather than wait for that and then react to it and just expect the board to fund that, maybe thinking ahead and trying to raise that privately, at least half of it, would, again, be something that this board has done. So just a suggestion.
Okay, thanks, Commissioner Bertram. Next item, K3.
All right, yeah, as it was just alluded to, so this next item is for the same grant program, the carbon reduction program. The city of Paynesville would like to submit an application for a trail in the city of Paynesville. They're not expecting any financial contribution from us, but since the city of Paynesville cannot be a direct recipient of the grant, since they're not a state aid city, they do need the county to be their fiscal agent. So this would be another one where we're the fiscal agent for. But we've been the fiscal agent for Paynesville in the past. As recently as last year, they constructed a trail along our county road 130. And basically what they're wanting to do is to extend that same kind of project into town underneath Highway 23 here. So that's what this action would be. Have the board consider adopting a resolution to act as the fiscal agent for this grant application for the city of Paynesville.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, and what we did was on the Cronus Trail, starting in 2000 until 2016, the county was a fiscal agent for 9 of those projects as we got the grants because of the fiscal. And it was, at the time anyway, Jody told me it's minimum, it's a pass-through is what it is. But because Paynesville's not big enough, that's why. And this is between the city of Paynesville, the township, and local financial support is how we're doing that. So I'll make that motion.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Bertram. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. Further discussion? And again, this is one of those fiscal agents that's very short term. So, Commissioner Johnson.
Chris, is their application also due on Friday?
Yes, it is. Yep.
Okay. And this is just the last piece of that application?
Yeah, the city of Paynesville has a reputable engineering consultant that is preparing the grant application, so they're not expecting us to do it. Just once this resolution is signed, I'll just pass it along to them and they'll attach it to their application and submit.
Okay, it's conduit financing for us.
Yeah,
Okay,
pretty much, yep.
thank you.
Mr. Chairman, just to be clear, Bob, there's a trail committee, which I'm on. We met, Bolkin and Mink, Chuck DeWolf is our engineer. So we've been working on this and putting this together. This is just like Chris said, the last piece of that, but not looking for money. You didn't have to do anything with the application or anything, so.
Yeah, and then I've had those conversations with Chuck Wolf and yeah, they're fully prepared to implement this if they're successful.
Thanks.
Okay, we got the motion in a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thanks,
right.
Chris.
Well, thank you, Commissioner. That's all I had prepared for action items, unless there's any questions that you need me to answer at this time. If not, I'll gladly step aside.
All right,
Thank you.
thanks, Chris. Okay, next up, Environmental Services. Good morning, Shelley, Becky, and Emily.
Good morning, Commissioners. Shelley Benton, Environmental Services Director. We don't often come to you asking to remove something, so since fiscal agent seems to be the topic of the day, I'm going to let Becky go through this item with you, and Emily is also here.
Yep. Good morning, Commissioners. This is to accept or to sign an agreement that will vacate the role of fiscal agent for the Sauk River Watershed Collaborative, and then also authorize our Stearns County Auditor Treasurer Randy Schreifels to sign a transfer agreement on behalf of the board. So Stearns County has been the fiscal agent for this collaborative since 2022. And it is a better fit for a soil and water conservation district, which our Stearns SWCD is willing to take on as fiscal agent. The Stearns County Attorney's Office has drafted this assignment agreement, which has been accepted by the Board of Water and Soil Resources, and they will be a signee on this as well. The planned date for the new fiscal agent is July 31st, 2026, and at that time, all the fund balances will be transferred. With your approval of the agreement today, we will send out a 30-day notice to all of our partners as required by the collaborative. And then the next step will be for the policy committee to meet, which Commissioner Notch is on. They meet on the 21st of May, where they will make their formal recommendation for the new fiscal agent and also to have the partners sign a fiscal agent agreement amendment for that purpose. And then after that point, we will bring back to you for your approval that fiscal agent agreement amendment for signature. And then the Stearns County Attorney's Office has also been working on a transfer agreement, which is an agreement between us and the Stearns SWCD, which is their formal name, or legal name, rather. And so that'll lay out, after the transfer, we can be paid for our time to help transition them or complete the transition for them as fiscal agent in that role. So I've got Emily Forbord here, who's handling a lot of the responsibility too. So if you have any questions, we can certainly answer.
Any questions? Otherwise, you'd look for approval.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Bertram. Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. Do you have a comment?
I do have a
Commissioner
question.
Johnson? Okay.
Why?
Oh, why the transfer?
Yes.
The transition? The majority of the implementation and the money spent for this grant is at the level of the soil and water conservation districts. And so they work it's a lot of the Bowser Board of Water and Soil Resources policies and the grant agreement manuals and all of that is very familiar to the SWCDs across the state. Stearns County is the only county at this point that has served or is currently serving as fiscal agent, other than a county that is jointly operating with their soil and water conservation district. So it's a little bit more of a time, it takes more of our time, I think, to handle the fiscal agent role than it would for the SWCDs, so.
You're streamlining a bit.
Yes.
Thank
Yep.
you.
And when we originally took on the role, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Johnson, the other parties or partners weren't ready to do that, but they still wanted the funds and to begin the implementations of the plan.
So you've mentored them appropriately.
Yeah, we helped set up the structure and such with the state and to get things going, so.
Thanks so much.
Commissioner Bertram?
Mr. Chairman, so the Clearwater, North Fork, they're already their own fiscal agents.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Bertram, the North Fork is also a collaborative, and that is a fiscal, who's the fiscal agent on that one, Emily?
Deputy
Is it-
County Wright
I
County.
think it's Wright County.
Yeah, that's,
Wright
yep.
County.
So, and then the Clearwater River Watershed District is not even a partner with the Mississippi St. Cloud Watershed. They decided not to be a part of it. So as a watershed district, they're their own fiscal agent, obviously, but as far as the watershed collaboratives or joint powers entities, they are not a partner.
Okay. And then, Mr. Chairman, I asked, and Mike and I have talked about having John come before the board, and John's willing to come to the board from the watershed district. I think that would be timely, unrelated to this, but kind of related, would be timely for him to come. I don't know if you guys caught it or not, but I think there's close to $350,000 in watershed district permits that we're going to be required to pay. And based on my conversation with Kevin, they'll really never even be on site or anything, which was always kind of a pet peeve of mine. When we've done these projects, they require the permit, you got to pay the permit, they never even come and inspect it. And I'm not saying that critically, but that's one of the many things that I've tried to get John to answer. And then the issue now with our road projects that they're doing retention pondage on road projects, which the County Road 32-4 project, Mr. Chairman, that added, I think, $12,000 to that project for doing, some of those general conversations, I think, would be in order. And I think it would be timely to have John come before the board at some point to have that discussion, or a separate meeting, however you want to do it.
Yeah, and I know with going to the watershed meetings, part of their issue was their ditch and permit coordinator or person has changed hands numerous times over the last few years, and the current one they have has been working pretty diligently to get those final inspection, because they have to obviously have those end of project reports on file as well. So I know he's been pretty diligently trying to close out, I guess, past permits. So hopefully they get caught up, and like most places, keeping staff has been an issue.
And that last meeting that we had in Sauk Center that you were at, I did talk to him, and he did say the same thing, but it's kind of like a building permit. When I got on the council, building permits are a great thing. And of course, when you get a building permit for a shingling job, the expectation is that the inspector is going to be there to make sure that who's ever doing the project is doing it right. They never even did any inspection. And so we caught on to that, and of course, let that inspector go and did something different. But if there's a fee that's required, it would seem to me that there should be some on-site oversight and like approval. And again, like I said, we can get into that when we talk to him. But my understanding from Kevin was that even though we're going to pay $345,000 in permits, there really won't be a lot of on-site, but we can talk about that.
But are we, the Sauk River Watershed is not getting that.
Yep.
What would they, why would they get such a big permit fee?
Well, based on the size of the project. And I could be wrong, but Kevin and I did have a general discussion on that. But again, that's the whole part of this, like even taking over the permitting now, the fiscal agent part of that, even though we're handing that off, so we still want to have a thumb on it, in my opinion, on what the watershed district's
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah, and part of that, the reason Stearns ended up fiscal agent is because the collaborative group did not want to have the watershed also be the fiscal agent. So we ended up taking on the fiscal agent because none of the other 9 entities wanted to be the fiscal agent, so.
So, Mr.
So,
Chair,
yeah, so it's kind of nice that hopefully we're passing this one.
whenever you want to come back, Shelley, and remove us from other fiscal agents, you feel free to do that.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right. I don't think we voted on it yet, did we? All right. All those in favor of the motion to assign the fiscal agent agreement over to the Soil and Water, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
And Mr. Chair, I don't believe your motion included the authorization for the auditor treasurer to sign the transfer agreement.
I'll move that.
Second.
I kind of have hesitation personally, but
All right, so the second motion is to authorize the transfer to Randy Schreifels to be able to. Okay,
Yeah, right, for Randy Schreifels to sign the transfer agreement on your behalf.
sounds good. Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Boom,
Thank you.
thanks. Motion carried. Thank you very much. All right, at this point, we will take a 5-minute break. Back to order. Next item is Parks Director Ben Anderson.
Yeah, good morning,
Morning.
Commissioners. Ben Anderson, Stearns County Parks Director, and with me I have our consultant from HKGI, and I'll let her introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Gabrielle Grindy, Landscape Architect with HKGI.
All right, the agenda item we have for you today is to consider adopting the updated Quarry Park and Nature Preserve Master Plan. But before we get started, I wanted to take a moment to honor the late Mark Zachary for his extraordinary contributions to Stearns County, and in particular for his instrumental role in creating Quarry Park and Nature Preserve. Mark's vision, leadership, and deep love for this community helped transform former privately owned granite quarries into one of the region's most cherished publicly owned natural spaces, including the innovative and beloved practice of using those old granite quarries for swimming. As one of the main founders of Quarry Park and the author of Quarry Quest, he worked to ensure that the history, character, and beauty of this landscape would be preserved for generations to come. His dedication to public service, his commitment to collaboration, and his passion for enhancing the quality of life for central Minnesota continues to shape the experiences of every resident and visitor who enjoys the park today. Mark's foresight and legacy will always live on through the various trails, overlooks, and especially through the swimming quarries that he was so fond of. In gratitude from the county and on behalf of all who enjoy Quarry Park for what it is today and what it will continue to become, we say thank you, Mark, for your persistence, your kindness, your thoughtfulness, and your countless contributions to our community.
Thanks, Ben. Yeah, it was much appreciated comments on Mark. A few years back, I believe he gave each of us commissioners a copy of his book, which was very interesting and intriguing, his passion for getting this, park going. So again, our sympathies to his family.
Yes.
Yeah, Ben, I've got the book right here.
Commissioner,
And I've been looking at it for the past 2 days, so.
Commissioner
Yeah.
Clark.
Yes, thinking about, there's a lot to reflect on in Mark's life. There's a lot to reflect on Commissioner Zachary's life and the things that he did both through this board when he served and with the Boys and Girls Club has made a difference for generations and generations to come. It cannot be understated what that impact is. And talk about a heavy lift. This was a hazardous place. Hazardous. It would have been, just by any definition, something most people couldn't see. Now, there were a lot of partners, which was great, but thinking about the ways, both from its now more natural beauty it's used, but also things like the swimming holes or getting to ski at night with the lanterns. We've actually done a great job kind of bringing together opportunities for those next generations to come and see and maybe learn. And so just thank you for reflecting on his life. And he's missed, but his legacy is going to live on.
Right.
All right, thank you.
All right, we'll jump into the presentation, so.
All right, so we'll be giving an overview today of the purpose and goals of the Quarry Park and Nature Preserve Master Plan, and then some of the content in the plan. So the purpose of this plan is that it's an update to the 1995 Master Plan. The Greater Minnesota Regional Parks and Trails Commission approved the original master plan and designated Quarry Park a regional park. But when the county suggested improvements and applied for grant funding last year for improvements to the park, they were told that they needed an updated master plan. So you can see on the right the list of all the requirements, including public engagement, which was a big part of this process. So the goals overall for this process were to understand what park users wanted to see in the parks. That was part of the public engagement process. And then also to create a pathway for the county and the park staff to fund and implement park improvements. So this is an overview of the contents. This is the table of contents of the plan. There are 6 sections which roughly align with the requirements that Greater Minnesota Commission requires. This is a map showing a 50-mile radius roughly from Quarry Park, and this is part of the requirements. So this identifies where other facilities are located in the region, and Quarry Park and regional parks are really supposed to fill a gap in recreational opportunities in the state. So there are 4 main regional designation criteria that are required as part of the state requirements. They are that the park provides a high-quality outdoor recreation experience, which is clear. Like Ben mentioned, the swimming quarries are really a high-quality experience. Criteria 2 preserves a regionally significant and diverse natural or historic landscape, so those historic elements are really important in the park. Criteria 3, it's well located and connected to serve regional population and tourist destinations, so it is in the fastest growing area in the county, and it's well located along the I-95 corridor. And then criteria 4 fills a gap in recreational opportunity within the region. So again, there are lots of recreational opportunities within the park that it serves. This is a rough development timeline. The 1995 master plan included a lot of historical information, which is really valuable, and that plan will continue to serve as a resource for the park. But this is a summary of that timeline. So in 1913 was when the mining began in this area. In 92 is when the county took ownership, and in 95 the master plan for the park was approved. So over 30 years ago that master plan was approved. And then in 98 the park was open to the public. And so today now we are presenting the update to that master plan. So a big portion of the master plan is the trends and public engagement section. So we looked at the recreation trends. You know, a lot has changed in 30 years in terms of what people are doing outside, how the landscape has changed, how people are spending their money for recreation. And so this section highlights a lot of those trends in tourism and recreation. And then we've included the Stearns County Parks mission statement as a reference to remind us what the purpose and goal of this park is.
Yeah, and then just to reiterate that the mission statement of the Stearns County Parks Department is to provide natural resource-oriented parks and outdoor recreation opportunities that enhance the quality of life for residents through community building, physical fitness, and economic vitality. We really wanted that theme to carry through the plan as we were developing this. And we began that process with the public engagement. And on the screen, you can see a summary. There's a more in-depth. You can see all of the little pages that are in the packet and are included. So hopefully you had a chance to look at that. But we held stakeholder meetings. We held stakeholders with groups such as the City of Waite Park, the St. Cloud Convention Visitor Bureau, the St. Cloud School District, rock climbing groups, mountain bike groups, Stearns History Museum, a lot of different entities to what are our bigger community partners looking for within the park. Some of the visions that were 30 years old, what would they like to see changed? What do they want to see stay the same? So as part of that was happening in conjunction with the first online survey. And we had 710 respondents to that first online survey. And that data, the big graph you see on the left, is where we collected the initial information on what people wanted to see within the park. Number 1 that came to the top was more or improved hiking trails within the park. Number 2 was more or improved bike trails, with the parentheses mountain and fat tire underneath that question. And the third was more natural resource preservation and restoration within the park. So from that data that we collected in that first round, we also had an online map where people could go in and they could actually click on a specific area. So whether it was a swimming quarry or the restored prairie in those areas, and they could do specific comments, or if there was something in a specific area of the park, so like on the southern part in the S&A portion, they could write a comment about, you know, it's always wet here, is there some sort of improvement we could see so it's easier to cross, you know, different things like that. After the online survey, the first one, and the online map area were complete, we used that data to put together our recommendations, and that is when we held the public open house and opened the online survey number 2. The public open house was very well attended, and I know many of you commissioners were able to attend and see. We had between 90 and 100 attendees, and on the online survey we had 57 responses. That may seem like an underwhelming amount for the second online survey, but it's not uncommon to see that number drastically reduced in the round 2 because people have felt like they've said what they wanted to say in the first round. So. Next, we'll talk about the existing conditions. So today, what does the park look like? So this map, you can see the existing trails system out there. You can see Quarry 2, which is the first swim quarry that was opened when the park was opened, up over here in the northeast corner. You can see Quarry 11, which was the second one that was opened in 2015 as more of a family-friendly swimming quarry. Throughout the map, you can see these bigger dark lines. Those are the multi-use trails that are existing in the park. And you have to remember on a scale perspective that, depending on how far you're zoomed in and how far you're zoomed out, trails can look like they're a lot bigger or a lot smaller or take up a lot more space than what they actually, do on the ground. But to elaborate a little bit more on what the trail conditions are and what the length we have. So currently in this 220 acres, which we were looking at, the north side of the park, up here, we have 6.3 miles of multi-use trails. So if people want to ride their bike, they want to walk their dog, we use them for cross-country skiing. Basically, unless we see big conflict on those trails, we allow people to use anything that's non-motorized on those trails.
Ben, excuse me, Mr. Chair. So the mountain bikes can be used on the multi-use trails right now?
They can ride their bike, anybody can ride their bike on the multi-use trails right now.
So the biking availability for the mountain bike would actually be over 9 miles right now?
It's, in theory, yes, but it's not the same experience. Oh. The multi-use trails within the park are about 20 feet wide in an aggregate surface. I would compare them more to a gravel road than I would a trail surface. So, but we also heard concerns about conflicts with bikes and walkers on the same trail as throughout the process as well. So currently, when we move into mountain bike and single track, this bright yellow dashed line is what's currently roughly cut in for mountain bike single track trail. It's not, if you don't know where it is, we don't advertise it for people to come out and utilize it at this point because it's not well defined and it's not usable for all riders. So that's part of what we'll hear later is about trying to make some of what's existing more usable for people into the future. But there is 2.91 miles of existing separated trail. Once the mountain bikers get down to this area, then again, they're using shared youth paths to get to some of these other areas. So in total, we say there's about 4 miles of trail throughout the park, which has to be used by mountain bikers if they're on that system and wanting to do that within the park at this time. For cross-country skiing, we have 4.83, and again, that's the area that was alluded to by Commissioner Clark earlier, that we have the lighted ski trail system on. And that utilizes the mountain bike, or the multi-use trails that you see on here. Those aren't separated different trails. It's just calling out a specific use in the winter time that those get switched to. Walk only total trails, we have 5.8 of those 5.18 miles of trail. Most of that exists in this southern 530 acres part of the park, which is most of it, some of it, about 323 acres designated as SNA, Scientific and Natural Area, through the DNR, and the other chunks that are not designated are treated as such by the county and have been since they were purchased. But again, those walking only trails are designated mostly in the southern part of the park.
Mr. Sherburne. Yeah. So Ben, the number one issue, I guess, was the number of enhanced trails. And so on the southern part of the park that we're talking, that 220 acres, how much walking trail is there now?
4.85 miles, the bottom line in the SNA area.
Okay, I'm talking about in the Quarry Park, not excluding the SNA.
Up here in the 220 acres, yeah. Multi-use trail.
No, not the multi-use, just walking only.
0.33.
Okay.
So a third of a mile.
Okay, a third of a mile.
Yep, and those would be these small little areas that are highlighted in this pinkish color through there. So site amenities and facilities. So when we were looking at this, the comments that we heard throughout the master planning process, and when we started looking at the park a little bit more significantly, it really made sense to try to separate out some of the areas. So we have Recreation Zone 1, which is in this purplish color. That includes the swimming quarry number 11, the rock climbing area, the scuba diving, hiking, some mountain biking trails that traverse through that area, cross-country ski trails, and snowshoeing trails. Recreation Zone 2 is where quarry number 2 is in the original swim quarry. That includes some fishing spots, the swimming quarry, scuba diving, restrooms, a couple picnic tables, picnic shelter, and hiking trails through that area. The parking and entry zone is where the parking lot, where everybody comes in and enters the park right now. It has about 250 parking spots in it. It has the gatehouse that collects the parking fee. Again, anybody could walk, ride their bike, ride the bus, get a library pass to get into the park without having to buy a parking pass. The park office building is also there. There's some restrooms, picnic shelter, and then the Derrick exhibit is just on the south side of that. So, and then if you look on the south end here, that's where the scientific and natural area. And again, looking at the park and how it's divided. The park's name is Quarry Park and Nature Preserve. And when I look at that, or when I hear that, it's really, when I look at this map, the park is separated into two areas. You have the northern 220 acres where the recreational activity occurs. So we're talking rock climbing, we're talking scuba diving, we're talking cross-country skiing, the mountain biking. That was what was in the original plan, and that's what we would like to see persist, and that's what we heard from people that they'd like to see persist, is the recreational activity stays within the northern 220 acres of the park. This additional 530 acres to the south, the scientific and natural area, is the area that's being more preserved for nature and doesn't see that heavy recreational use within it. Now, that isn't designed accidentally. This northern 220 acres is also the area where most of the granite mining occurred. This is the most heavily disturbed area. It's shown with the 21 reflecting granite quarries that are up in this area. So I think that there was a diligent purpose in trying to keep some of those more disturbing activities in an area that has already been previously disturbed. In comparison, I mean, there's a reason that the state decided that they wanted to take some of this property and turn it into a scientific and natural area. It's an area that's a little bit less disturbed. Now, I'm not saying that there isn't areas up in the 220 acres that do have some pristine ecological resources and things within them, but we know where those are. Those are the rock outcrops, those are some wetland margins, and those are the areas that we do the best due diligence that we can to stay out of, no matter what activity that is either proposed or is occurring out in that space. So moving into a little bit more just on the site vegetation, I talked a little bit about the rock outcrops. Most people in Minnesota, when you think of Minnesota, you don't think of cactus as being a native plant. Well, Quarry Park does have a native prickly pear cactus that does occur in the extreme conditions that the rock outcrops have. We also have a lot of wooded treed areas. There's prairie, there's wetland, there's intermittent trees throughout. It's a variety. In the 1980s, Mike Lee, who is an area DNR biologist, did the biological survey for Stearns County and is very familiar with this site and has gone through. So there's very detailed maps of what was existing then in comparison to now. I can about guarantee that if he was to come sit down here at the table and have a conversation with us, he would say that the buckthorn was not as prevalent out there in the 1980s as it is today. Unfortunately, we're looking at about 757 acres of buckthorn out in that park, and we'll talk more about that ecological restoration piece later, but changes have occurred over the last 30 years, and you know, it's important to realize what's there, what was there, and how we can get back to maybe some of the area and where it was.
Right, so this graphic here shows the 1995 master plan concept. So this is a pretty detailed concept with trails, overlooks, entrance area, parking lot, all drawn in. You can see in the top left corner, the parking lot was not built exactly as it is shown in this graphic, but it's pretty close to what it is shown here. So we have taken this 95 concept and we've identified the items in the white circles. Those have been built or constructed. So there's a fence enclosure around the park. There is access at the northwest corner of the park. There's the parking lot. There's operations and maintenance facility or the park office. There are rock climbing areas, restrooms, swimming quarries, picnic areas. There's a boardwalk across the wetland, and there's an historic mining area. The areas identified in the pink circles are recommendations that have not yet been realized from the 1995 plan. So an interpretive center or trailhead building, outdoor amphitheater, mountain bike technical zone, a secondary operations and maintenance facility, ice skating rink, outdoor classroom, group camp area, a secondary entrance to the park, and accessible observation points. And then the trails have not, again, exactly been developed as shown, but roughly in the areas that are located throughout this graphic. On the left side of this slide, we've identified the major changes between the 1995 plan and the 2026 plan. So in this plan update, we've removed the group camp area, so we're not recommending any camping in the park. We've reduced the proposed outdoor amphitheater, which was supposed to be for 200 people, to a smaller, more intimate outdoor classroom for 50 people. We've changed the interpretive center recommendation to be more of a visitor center, so accommodating a lot of recreational and interpretive uses. We heard a lot through the public engagement that people really wanted a place where they could go inside in the winter, where they could use restrooms or changing areas when they go swimming, when they get out of their car, rather than the more primitive restrooms that are located in the park today.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Persky.
Yeah, on that 95 plan, could you show us where the mountain bike trails are on that original plan?
Are they the red ones or the yellow? Okay, oh, it's the outer trails along the edge of this park area.
Right, and so you can see that it was put on the outer boundary. And then as a reference, Mike Lee's intent was that mountain bike trail should be on the outside rim in order that it would not conflict with the other entities inside the park, and especially some of the more natural areas that would like to be preserved. Likewise, the person that actually designed that trail was actually an avid mountain biker himself, and he agreed with that concept to minimize the effect on the internal part of the park, so.
Right. Mr. Chair?
Yes.
If I could just comment, and then Commissioner Persky as well. So that trail since then has been converted to a multi-use trail and is no longer just a mountain bike trail. So I did see a plan, an actual map from 2012, which was a couple of years before I started with the county, where that was designated as a bike trail only. It has not been treated that way since at least 2014. It's been opened up for multi-use trails, so that opportunity potentially has been taken away from that user group on that trail, and I think some of that was due to, some of the local money that was raised by the ski club in order to put in the ski lights through that area. But again, that trail is a 20 to 25 foot wide path, gravel path going along the outside of that.
But you can bike on it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So other items that have changed since the 95 plan is that we've added a small loop trail for accessibility. There were recommendations from Greater Minnesota Commission to add more accessible features in the regional parks. So that would provide an opportunity for people with mobility issues to walk around the historic mining scene and the northwest area of the park. We've formalized the northeast entrance of the park, shown at S on the graphic here. So this would be, today there's a gate there, but we would provide some accessible parking spots so that this would provide closer access to the swimming quarry in the northeast part of the park. We've expanded the recommended mountain biking trails. In the 95 plan, there were 2.2 miles of trails, so the recommendation today is provide 7.8 miles of trails. And we've removed the mountain bike technical zone, which was part of the 95 plan, taking that out in the 2026 update. And then we've identified Quarry 1 as potentially expanding to a swimming quarry since there is such a high demand for swimming in the summer. And we've expanded rock climbing in the eastern part of the park and expanded restoration practices throughout the park.
So this next slide just puts everything that Gabrielle was just explaining into more perspective. So the overall development concept. So if you look up on the area parking, all of that stuff would be updated. Entry improvements, with visitor center, loop, that additional overlooks is something we heard, and accessible overlooks, not only to different areas, but also for fishing opportunities. Explore future acquisition for potential expansion of maintenance facilities, because as you all know right now, our entire park system is housed out at Quarry Park at the entrance. And as our system continues to expand, we will need more room for equipment and staff and such. The proposed additional swimming area up here in the northeast, that Quarry 1, again, this is just being put in place for concept. We do not have any plans to do this in the next year, 5 years, 10 years, hopefully. We don't, have to go to that point, but if we do get to that, we are seeing that much capacity and we're not, providing those opportunities we want to, that could be considered in the future and has been identified. And then we'd be eligible to maybe for funding to assist us with some of that development. Additional parking. So ADA was one of the things that came out, ADA access to the park. So right now, all of the trails within the park are gravel surface. So we'll see a little bit later, there are some proposals in certain areas to provide some asphalt surface trails. So around like the visitor center, and then actually the Greater Minnesota Regional Parks and Trails, Bill Botten, one of their ADA consultants, recommended a separate parking area that was closer to Quarry 2. Because right now, in order for visitors to get to Quarry 2, it's about a half-mile walk to get out there. So could we provide a parking space on that east side, and we'll see details of this, to give quicker access and better access to those in need. Other additional overlooks, things like that. But again, just a higher level, more detailed picture. As we were working through the plan, and the Park Commission was having discussions throughout trail development principles, because the top two things that we heard from the public is, one, they want more hiking trails and they want more bike trails. People want to see more trails within the park regarding what that looks like. So the Park Commission wanted to view different trails across the state, so they went down to Wright County and viewed Bertram Chain of Lakes, their park down there where they have biking and walking trails throughout that park. They also wanted to do a little bit of research on trail development principles, and they found this principles that were sponsored by the Federal Highway Administration and National Recreation and Trails Advisory Committee. And these are really just, again, to help us continue to think about when we're doing trail development and putting those concepts in place, how do we want to go about that? Conflict, recognize conflict as goal interference, provide adequate trail opportunities for everybody so we don't have those conflicts. Right now, if we put 100 mountain bikers and 100 walkers out on the trails at Quarry Park, there's going to be conflicts because we don't necessarily have good, adequate, separate spaces for those people to participate in different activities. Minimize the number of contacts in problem areas, involve users early as possible in the process. So I'm not going to go through and read all of these, but I think it was just some general guidelines that the Park Commission felt would be good to include and to bring us back to when we're considering trails and concepts into the future. Like we were just talking about, the number 2 thing we heard in the plan is, people wanting to see expanded mountain bike trails. So just a little bit of the timeline on where this concept derived. In 1995, mountain bike trails were proposed in the park. And yes, that did look different 30 years ago than what it does today, or what is proposed today. But the reason that we focused in on Quarry Park is that this is the only park in our entire system where mountain bike trails are identified as an identified use as people wanting to see them within this park. We don't see that at Kramer Lake. We don't see that at Warner. We didn't see it at Mississippi. Quarry Park is the one where that has been there for over 30 years. In between 1995 and 2020, there was a number of new and informal trails that emerged. So we had that loop on the outside that was designated as a bike trail. As that moved away, there was other trails. And we see this in hiking trails, not just bike trails, but people create the space where they want to go and see certain things. So in 2020 is when the park staff brought to the Park Commission an idea to partner with a local cycling club. And the cycling club had been having conversations with the Parks Department. So we brought forward a resolution to the county board that was recommended by the Park Commission to form a partnership with the Mid-Minnesota Cycling Club to develop a formal mountain bike trail system within the park. This agreement also put some onus on the club in that once, these trails were built, that they would operate and maintain them to a certain degree. We're not asking them to go out with chainsaws and things like that. We would handle that within the county park. But if there's smaller brush along the edges, things like that, that's what the club and the county had agreed to at that point. So over the last 6 years.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chair,
I'll let Ben.
Ben, but with that discussion, wasn't the amount of trail discussed, wasn't it about 3 miles of trail?
At that time, no, it was to develop formal mountain bike trails. So what does that look like in today's? I don't recall there being a specific limit set on it at that point in 2020.
I thought that discussion
It could have
was
been
within the park, okay.
Okay. So in 2024, the club came to the Park Commission with a proposal for up to 10 miles. And at that time, both the Park Commission and the County Board approved submitting a grant to the Greater Minnesota Regional Parks and Trails Commission to fund up to 10 miles of trail within the park. Now that there was some stipulation put around, and the County Board asked the club to raise dollars for the match, in which the club did raise a good chunk of that. I would say they came a little bit short of what their ultimate goal is, but they continue to work on it. But regardless, they still put a good faith effort up to get those dollars raised. The grant application was ultimately denied because, again, the Quarry Park Master Plan was 30 years old and needs to be updated. That's brought us to where we are today in 2026, where we're now working on the updated plan, and part of that process is also relooking at that total mileage of potential trails to be included in that plan. The map you see on the right, again, in that bright yellow, is what's currently existing rough cut in today. So the Mountain Bike Club, not hired, but they worked with Joshua, who you all, I believe, received information from the trail designer. This person, he has extensive background in mountain bike trail designs. He's done stuff up at Cuyuna. He did the Duluth Traverse, which travels right through the city of Duluth. He's worked on trails down in the metro. He's presenting at some conferences down in Houston. So a guy that has a lot of background in this trail development and mountain bike trail specifically development plan. He came up with 5 concepts. The first concept was pretty close to 10 miles of trail and included like 40 crossings of existing trails. He was putting, just problem solving, where could trails possibly go? ultimately, working through his processes and his different maps and that, he landed in between 7.5 and 7.8 miles of trail that he's recommending that he believes could be supported out in the park, given the current uses. He did have some questions about if there was any possibility of removing redundant hiking trails within the park, but that was ultimately shot down because we can't remove trails where we have lighted infrastructure in that area. So just, I guess the point I'm trying to make is that, you know, the club went from a vision of 10 miles out here, you know, worked through processes, and now have removed over 2 miles out of that and worked with a consultant. It's not just us out there drawing, or just the club out there drawing lines on a map on where they'd like to see different things go, but there's strategy put into place on where these potential trails could go within the park and still be sustainable with the current park uses. The other thing that you notice if you get in closer into your packet pages, sorry, these maps aren't real great, but there was diligent effort to stay away from the most heavily used areas in the park, that Quarry 11 and those Quarry 2 areas. Recognizing that that is the identity of Quarry Park. That's what Quarry Park is known for, the swimming within the park. The overall intent of this system is not to create a mountain bike trail destination and be known for that. It's to add in trails that are usable for a multiple age group, different people, and then bring them and separate them out from potential conflicts with others on the multi-use trails.
All right, so a little bit more detail about what is proposed for the park entrances. This shows the first option for the new proposed visitor center, outdoor classroom, and paved trail at the entrance. So this concept graphic is pretty close to what was shown in the 95 plan, except the outdoor classroom is smaller. In the 95 plan, there was a much larger amphitheater planned. So we've reduced the size of that and added a shade structure and added a paved loop trail, which would provide access to looking at a couple of the quarries and looking at some of the historic remnants on the site. And then in the bottom left, you can see an example of what that visitor center may look like. Again, this visitor center is just shown as a concept, so it could be built in a different shape or size. We wanted to make sure that we showed the maximum size possible, because it's much easier to develop something that's smaller than what's shown in the plan than to go bigger than what's shown in the plan. So this would be the largest possible size of the visitor center. And then this is a second option, so it just shows the building closer to the parking lot, so it reduces the impact into the park, but it still shows a paved loop trail and an outdoor classroom, and then some additional amenities closer to Quarry 18 and 19.
If I can just interject there. So that would have been my thought too, is if you can keep the visitor center probably as far out of intruding into the park would probably, because you do have room for parking yet right at the entrance of the park, right? Because the parking lot starts further back.
Right, and Mr. Chair, Commissioner Notch, board members, so one of the visions in the 1995 plan was also to try and have a view from the visitor center to the historical derrick exhibit and the reflecting. So that's why we wanted to have both options there for, again, on the concept side. In the future is when we'd really dive deep into the details and talk about with the public on where those, we might want to see those, so.
That makes sense.
Mr. Chair, then do we have any walking-only trails coming from the visitor center?
Yeah, the paved loop trail would be walking only. The purple trails, those are natural surface trails, so those are the multi-use trails. All right, then on the northeast side of the park, you can see on the map on the left, number 2, which is where there's a gate located today. This is where we would enhance this area with a small parking area for handicapped accessible parking. We'd have a self-serve gate entry, so this would be primarily for people that have the need to park in this area for the closer access to swimming Quarry 2 and also to Quarry 1, where there may be enhanced fishing and swimming facilities.
Then the third entrance, the southeast entrance where number 3 is on that map on the left. So one of the things that I think really stood out, and again, the south entrance was included in the initial 1995 plan, but in hearing people wanting more access to hiking trails, in the south portion, that 530 acres to the south, we don't have good access. Right now, it's over a half-mile walk from the existing parking lot to get down into the SNA. And once you're in the SNA, then you're committed again to about another 5-mile hike. So you're talking a pretty substantial hike to get all the way through there. And not everybody, is looking for a 5-6 mile hike when they come out to the park. So in order to potentially provide better access to more just walking trails and hiking trails, this south entrance emerged again as something that both the Park Commission and Park staff feel would be a good addition. And you could get away, people who don't want to be part of that recreational activity on that north part of the park, where the cross-country skiing, the swimming, the noise, some of the more crowdedness on our super warm days out there, you can get away from that. You can go down, you can, go directly in nature. The trails down here are mowed surface trails. They're a lot smaller. They're not 20 to 25 feet wide. They're actually, 6 to 8 feet wide through that area, and that's intentional. And that map is the way that it's presented and the uses, at least within the concept now, that would remain the same, but provide a little bit more intimate trail experience for those who are wishing for that type of access.
As part of the master plan, we've identified enhancing wayfinding and interpretation in the park. So we heard from public engagement in this process and also 2 years ago through the countywide Parks and Trails system plan that people are interested in more wayfinding signage so they know how long of a trail they're committed to, for example, going to the SNA, how long the walk is going to be before they get back, and then interpretive information. So they want to know what the history of the site is, natural resources information. So this is an example of where current signs are located today in the park. A lot of them would be enhanced, and then potential additional interpretive and trail etiquette signs could be added to the park.
Then our ecological resources. So again, we touched on this a little bit prior, but just the overall emphasis on this is a large natural landscape that falls on the outskirts of a very urban area. This park has multiple different uses, and it always will. And I think that that's a good thing and be able to, maintain access that people want to see and have within their parks, but also do preserve the natural side of things. Again, like I mentioned, we have 757 acres of buckthorn within the park, which basically creates a monoculture of plants that are out there. It's not diverse. We're not doing the resources, the ecological systems, they're not acting together as one. We have one dominant force out there. So this board, the county board, has approved 2 contracts for some major buckthorn removal projects out there. In total, we're looking at about 150 acres that we're actively treating and planning to manage here in the next 10 years out there, and those are shown on this map. Those are largely around areas where there's wetlands. We know around the wetland margins in this park, there's a significant population of tuberculin rain orchids. That's one of the reasons that the state was interested in the SNA portion of the park located on the south side. We also know this area has significant rock outcrops where there's specialist species such as the prickly pear cactus and a lot of different lichens and fungi that I don't know what they look like, but that's why we get with our experts like Mike Lee and those other people to help us make decisions around the ecological management. We're not just park staff. Even though in my background I do have a master's in natural resource management, I'm not an expert on plants, and I will admit that. But we know the people, we form relationships, we form the partnerships so that we can manage it the best way possible. And we want to continue that moving forward. So priority projects and cost estimates. So out of this plan, we want to know about what things are estimated to cost as we're putting these together. The largest and most expensive item that was identified within the plan is probably not surprisingly, but is the visitor center. So in that, if we went with a 13,000 square foot building, is estimated to cost about $13 million. Again, these are concept level at this point. It's easier to go down than it is to go up on the high level. So, you know, we wanted to put that out there, get the concepts out there. There's a lot more planning that has to happen in the future, you know, when and if we start moving forward on a lot of these elements that are identified within the plan. In total, it's not on here, but rough estimate, if we were to do everything today in this plan, the rough estimated cost would be about $27 million. It's a scary number, right? That's why things don't happen overnight. I don't expect things to happen overnight. These are long-range plans. Again, like to Commissioner Bertram's point with that, you know, the visitor center. Do we have community members that are willing to step up and help, you know, put something like that together? We haven't started those campaigns, but I would envision something like that being part of this process when and if we decide we want to pursue those options. The other thing we just wanted to keep open, we're not suggesting at this direct day that we're chasing after any potential property or not, but just keeping the door open in case there's any properties that become available around the outskirts of Quarry Park that are significant. At least we'll take a look at them. Doesn't mean we have to purchase them or we're committing to that today. It's just we'll consider it. Does it make sense at that time?
All right, so this schedule here shows the process. We started in December, and this was a pretty quick master planning process. We did a lot of engagement right away, January, February. Again, with that survey and online map, we had the open house in March. And then the Park Commission has been presented opportunities and issues with this plan, 3 separate meetings, and then presenting today, the update recommendations today.
Yeah, and I think just in closing, this is our last slide. I just would like to thank the public, the park commissioners, everybody who's been involved in this process. It was 30 years, you know, ago when this initially started. The park did not come about without controversy, and controversy is good. That brings out lots of different points, lots of different perspectives, and things for consideration that need to take place. But overall, in what I think the most important thing that we took out of this plan in this planning process is that we're not looking at monstrous significant changes. The public is happy with what they're seeing. What I envision, other than the mountain bike trails expansion, most of all of the other concepts that were already in the existing plan rose back up to the top in what people wanted to see. So I think that just is kudos again to the founders of the park in being visionary on the front end, and we look forward, you know, to the next several years.
Thanks, Ben. Any comments, or do we want a motion and then discussion, or?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the plan, recognizing it's a plan.
Okay, is there a second? Second, thank you, Commissioner Johnson. Discussion.
Mr. Chair,
Persky.
I've got a good number of things. And Ben had closed by saying not looking at a monstrous change. I got a couple questions just for Gabby. Gabby, you met a number of times with the bicycle group, the bike club. How many times
Yes.
do you think you met with them?
3 or 4, and then
Yeah.
Ben had other conversations as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then we also had a subcommittee with the chair and another member of the Park Commission that was going to be looking at this plan. How many times did you meet with them?
We didn't have a subcommittee. No, we didn't have a subcommittee.
Well, we did have a subcommittee between the chair and Commissioner Blankish, who was supposed to be looking at this plan throughout the process. I think you tried to engage in some meetings, but they didn't take place?
Not that I recall.
Okay, all right. So I guess I have a concern about when the checks and balances, you know, came through with this. And I do have about 6 pages of notes and commentary. I've reduced it down to 2. But my concern is if we're really ready to push this plan forward as a park master plan. Because did we really create a master plan, or did we just force an issue to get a plan together to put these bike trails in, to get an approval of a grant application. Because the amount of dialogue within the Park Commission has not been that great as far as ferreting out what it is the public really wants and what we want to see and how we want to move forward. Now, I don't want to get this wrong. I'm not in opposition to mountain biking. Not at all. I think it's a great activity. And by all means, in our attempt, when we were first talking about putting, I think it was 3 miles of trail in there and telling them to go in there and cut their trails and do that, I was fine with that. When we came with the proposal to look at putting in higher quality trails in the grant application, my thought was that we were going to actually enhance those areas that they already had put in. I don't think we had a concept of the extent to putting in 8 miles of trail until maybe the last meeting or two. And I take a look at where we want to go with this and what we've seen. Now, we've got the Bertram Park in Monticello, they've got 14 miles of trails, but they have 1,200 acres. The Cuyuna trails, yeah, they've got almost 50 miles of trails, they've got 2,700 acres. Okay, we're looking at 7 miles of trail, and we're looking at 220 acres to start with. But if you take out the parking lot, you take out the maintenance building, you take out the quarries, the piles, where are you putting these trails? And when you showed the map, it was just a very fine line. But if you take a look at the trails that is proposed and all the other uses, it's a significant impact on the entire park. And it's not just part of the park, it's the whole park. Now, Ben, you've done a great job being director of our park system. And we've accomplished a lot of things over the last year, but this is not a criticism or just to throw you under the bus at any time. But, talking to the previous park directors, when Chuck Wilkin was involved with the development of this park. And that's, again, what was in this book, and I don't know how many of you folks, have looked at it. And same thing talking with Pete Theismann, the following director. They were not in favor of bringing bike trails to the interior of the park. They were not in favor of enhancing that. Yes, they wanted to see use, but again, their comment is that at what point does it become overuse and what point does it become abused? Mike Lee, in talking to him, he did the initial assessment back in '95. He also says the same thing. You're trying to do too much with a very sensitive area. Now, we have not done an environmental assessment on that. We haven't taken a look at those flora and fauna that are significant, the nesting birds, the prickly pear and the orchid and those types of things. If I was to say we were doing a master plan, I would at least see if we could take a look at where are those critical pieces of habitat that for sure need to be protected so that people coming from that visitor center may be able to come out and, oh, there's a few lady slippers, because there are a few of them in the park. But I don't think that the designer that you went to that developed these bike trails has any idea about where those sensitive areas are. I really think that we're not ready to move this thing forward. I don't think we've heard from the public fully. We've got members in the public that are strongly opposed to the plan here in the audience today. We had them at the last Park Commission meeting, but they were not able to speak. I don't think we've had the opportunity actually to meet with those groups and say what they would like to see protected, because there are some features. And one of the criticisms in this book talks about the granite outcrops and how they are devastated by mountain biking. And is that something we want to see? Are we going to preserve any of the outcrops in the southern half so that they won't be ridden on? I don't know. So I guess my question or my thought is that we're not where we should be at. This plan is not completed. Looking at what the public wanted, to say that we only have 0.33 miles of walking trail and we want more trail, and where that fits into the park, we don't have a plan to where that those walking trails would be, as much as even a concept plan. And then being told, well, the mountain bike plan is only a concept plan. Well, once you get it on there as a concept plan, once it gets voted on, that becomes the plan. There also remains, I think, a division between what we want those mountain bike to be. Is it for the local users? Is it for the people that come out occasionally to ride? Or do we want it to be a destination? Because can that 22-acre park handle a good number of people from the entire area coming in there, hundreds of riders on the weekend? Is that what's in the best interest of that entire park? Do we want competition going on in there? We haven't talked about that. Do we want the high school team using it as a daily practice area? We haven't talked about that. So there are many items that remain unresolved as far as the park in general, but also the impact of what it would happen if you put these trails in there. Again, you've got the last two park directors that are in opposition to it. You've got the environmentalist, Mike Lee, that is in opposition to it. In conversation with them, I said, I don't need you to write a letter to the board, but I want you to tell me, can I tell the park board, can I tell the board here, can I tell the people that you don't support this plan? And they said yes.
So just for clarification for the public, this is the master plan, but anything that would be added in the future, I'm assuming it requires public hearings, more discussion, approval of the county board to even entertain the concepts down the road. So, you know, I think as a concept, which is what I believe this is, doesn't mean that's actually what's going to happen. I'm assuming that's the correct assumption.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Commissioners, yes, this is concept level, but if the concepts aren't included in the plan, we can lose out on potential funding sources that can help us vet out some of these additional concerns. Because there are environmental reviews, there are archaeological reviews, there are historical reviews that are all part of future development portions of that. This board could say, we want to see an environmental review done before we submit the grant. We might be able to use some of those grant dollars to pay for some of those review and not ask those dollars to come out of the levy. Mr. Chair, if you don't mind, I got a few things I would like to just respond with. It's going to be a little all over because as I was taking notes, I wasn't catching all of it, but just to Commissioner Persky's concerns. So the Park Commission has been involved with this entire process from the very beginning. With the kickoff meeting in January 14th and even prior in the recommendation to the county board to submit the grant for the up to 10 miles of that. They also were part of the conversations when we went to the county board and asked for the $48,000 to update this master plan. The Park Commission at the January 14th, we had discussions about the schedule and what that looked like and the different opportunities and check-in points throughout the master plan. So I do feel, as the park director and who oversaw this, that we did hit the proper check-ins throughout as we move through this process. Through the Phase 1 survey, those were presented to the Park Commission and that was shown to them on what we heard. From that, we moved on to the open houses on those development concepts and what that looked like to gather that public input from there as well. And ultimately, the Park Commission did approve recommending to the county board the adoption of the plan as it's presented. That vote was 5-2, and there were some people in opposition. But again, I think Commissioner Persky, I've heard you in the past say it's good to have, you know, not everybody agree all the time. And I 100% agree with that too, is that's how we get to better products in the end. But if we don't have the concepts on the front end on moving forward, how do we move forward on that? I also spoke with Mike Lee over the phone. I did not receive any direct communication from Mike. It was an email that was forwarded on to myself, but I did choose to reach out to have the conversations because I have a lot of respect for Mike. Like I said, he's done a lot of the vegetation surveys out there. We go to him for a lot of requests when we're doing ecological resource management within the park for rock outcrops and that. And I know, how does prickly pear respond to fire? Should we be burning these rock outcrops? How many times a year? What are your thoughts, Mike? All of those things. Had a very cordial conversation with him as well. And he would be included in the process. And he said he would like to be included in the process if we, you know, when and if we move forward, so that we are being cognizant of the areas where we need to avoid those ecologically sensitive areas. And again, my background is in natural resource management. I have a master's degree in that. That is where my heart is. That is what we will do. These trail concepts that are on the map are those general areas that we're drawn in. If we're going up and we run into an orchid, we will go around that area. The species that need to be removed at this point, again, are, you can cut 3-4 buckthorn plants out of the way to create the 5-foot wide vegetation clearing, the 18 to 24 inch actual riding surface that weaves through the woods. I had many other conversations with people from the Audubon, John and Linda Peck, Charlotte Stevens, National, you know, from the Nature Coalition. I understand their perspectives. I get where they're coming from on the changes. Again, I think we're just at different places. I do believe that this can be sustainably introduced into the park. Do I agree that maybe all 8 miles at one time is a lot? Yes. That's why it was recommended to the Park Commission in the way that it was approved in the plan, that we consider it doing it in 2 phases. Let's look at replacing what's existing out there. There's 4 miles of trail out there that is not usable. Let's find the best place for those 4 miles, because I don't agree that where it's at now is the best place. Let's find where that best place is, work through that process, provide that space, and then see how this looks in whatever, 3, 5, 10 years down the road. Let's, you know, on the usage side and how that fits in with the park and that piece of it. We have a lot of people that are in favor of this mountain bike too. Yes, we have opposition, but we have a lot of people who are interested in this, not only from the bike club, but from the community. The bike club has about 65 members, active members in it. And we heard from over, I think over 177 or something people that took the, it was the number 2 item that people wanted to see more an improved item within the park. So we have a lot of people in the community that are excited about seeing this, and that includes the St. Cloud Visitor Bureau. That includes the city of Waite Park, because it provides that other opportunity, again, that 2 to 4 to half-day experience for people coming into the ledge, coming to St. Cloud for baseball, coming for a hockey game or whatever that is, to come to a different area and maybe get a little exercise, see what we have to offer. Providing those different options for people to participate in within the community. The planning process and the environmental stuff, again, we're at a conceptual spot right now. The 7.5 to 7.8, you know, from the expert that was brought on by the Mid-Minnesota Cycling Club, you know, the initial conversations were, we're looking at 10 miles. He didn't think that was a good idea either. He brought it down to 7.5 to 7.8. So we've got some of the right people in place. But again, he would say this is conceptual. He goes through, he uses wetland maps, he uses terrain maps and different things to put these into place. But when it comes down to the actual design, we need to get on the ground like we do with any of our other trail projects and actually see what's there. And then maybe it's 30, 40 feet on either side on where that ends up actually landing. But again, if we don't end up with it in the plan, then to me, we don't have a next step forward. Walking trails. So yes, the number 1 thing we heard in the plan was additional walking trails. I don't know that we need, at least at this point, more trails. Let's try and provide better access to what's existing. And that's where that southeast entrance comes into play. Right now, we don't have a good access point to some smaller, more intimate walking loops. So to address some of those walking and hiking concerns about seeing more trails, let's see if we can provide better access to what we have at this point, and then in the future, if we need to consider that, we look at it then. the opposition to, I also talked with Pete and Chuck, former Parks directors, and I had brought up this conversation, and I won't say we had anything in depth, but when I had conversations, there was no concerns raised to myself. And those conversations look different between different people. But again, I'm just saying from what I heard is there was no direct concerns brought forward to myself when we had those conversations. And I've talked with Chuck multiple times in between and Pete at least one time. So just not saying you didn't hear what you heard, Joe, and that you didn't have those conversations, but I'm just saying when I had those conversations in the planning process, that those weren't brought up to me.
Okay, thank you, Ben and Gabrielle. Any other comments?
I will at some point.
Okay, well, we have a motion and a second. Commissioner Johnson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think we can't see the forest for the trees here. We're focused on mountain bike trails, which are important. And I think, given the regional criteria and trail principles, should be part of this park. But I think we may have a misnomer in the name of this plan, and I don't think the word plan should be there at all. It's a master vision. If you look back at the 1995 plan, we don't have an amphitheater, we have a classroom. Things don't come to fruition. If you look at any city's comprehensive plan, I would guess that less than 50% of what's written there ever really happens. And it's a very slow process. When I went through this, I assumed that we would review pretty much everything as it came up. We don't have $27 million right now to do this, Ben, and you know it, unless somebody out there would like to make a donation. So I'm assuming that we approve a vision for this park and meet the requirements of being a regional park. And then one by one, we look after the things that we have to deal with. Whether it's cleaning up the current mountain bike trails first and talking with Josh and whomever else and saying, how can we get 40 intersections down to 10? I would assume all of those things are going to happen. I would assume that given that there's significant acreage for science and nature, that we would look to preserve that, but we'd look at specifics as we set up a goal to do such a thing. It's interesting to me that we're sort of focused on one constituency here when there are many. I've heard from people on both sides of the mountain bike issue and about a lot of other things as well. I mean, fundamentally, the environment is really important. Swimming is really important. Picnicking is really important. Having paved trails for people who may have special needs, I think all those things are important. And I think we will tick them off one by one along with the community. Relative to the community and input, we live in a country where we have representative government. We don't ask every individual to be part of a decision before it's made. We ask them to participate as much as they're willing and able to do so, and many, many people do. But at some point, you hear from the people, and Ben has good numbers, I think. You hear from the Park Commission, and then we have this kind of a presentation, and we get to decide. Just wrapping up my comments, I think we should approve this, what's called a master plan, what I think about as a master vision for the park, and then continue to meet with various constituencies every time we come across an issue and make sure that happens. If someone were going to want to have their high school team out there 3 times a week in the spring, biking or swimming or doing whatever, we would be setting a plan for that. And we might say no. I wouldn't want my swimming team around all that granite rock. So I think this is an opportunity to look at this vision and say, let's set something in place that meets the criteria that Ben needs in order to get further funding, that we all need in order to have a roadmap, and then let's chip away at this over time. And I would argue that 10, 20 years from now, when it's redone again, we probably won't have met all the objectives that are laid out here, because they're just ideas, and we have to deal with them individually. So it doesn't worry me at all to approve this plan and then begin to work on it with all of the appropriate people. I will say personally, I heard that the Parks Commission had 3 meetings, and I think that was great. I think for us to only have 1 meeting is minimal. This was a 79-page plan, and in a 461-page agenda. Some commissioners obviously don't need to read every word. I still do at 6 months. I need to go through the whole thing. So I think there's study to be done. Some of those wonderful people who, on both sides of the mountain biking issue, who wrote to me make very good points. And I personally would like to talk with them. I'd like to have time to go out there. But I think we should approve the plan and then deal with it on a sort of a segmented basis, or parse out the things that are most urgent. Thanks.
Okay, Commissioner Bertram.
I'm not going to spend more time than we already have, which is very unfortunate in my world, but what did we pay for the consultant? Remind me what we approved for the consultant.
A little over $48,000.
$48,000? And now, when is that over?
As soon as it's entered into the portal for the Greater Minnesota Regional Parks and Trails Commission.
Okay. And the reason I ask that, Mr. Chairman, I don't, most of you know that, I don't like, when we start getting 10, 15, 20 emails from the Health and Human Services on issues or environmental services, that bothers me, then there's something up. And the directors have asked me, well, what do you want us to do? I said, stop having people email me, call me. You know, if you take care of the problem, we won't hear it. When I start getting the number of emails and phone calls and people talking to me about this plan, that gravely concerns me. And I was moved by the rifle shotgun thing. When you hear people, I listen to people. And I'm a 10,000-foot view. I don't want to be a 5,000-foot view. That's what the consultant got paid for. I've been encouraging Ben for the last 3 weeks. I started hearing this. I said, Ben, work this out before you bring it to the board, because I'm going to be hard-pressed to approve a plan that has controversy in it. The good news is 90%, 95% what's in here is good. So that's the good news. But if you really want to make it something, and if the consultant wants to earn your consulting fee, you need to work this out. That's why I ask, how long does this fee go? In my mind. Now, we'll approve it 3-2. Again, I'm the Karnak or whatever that Johnny Carson had, I can predict votes. So we'll approve it. Okay, that's not going to make the issues go away. You were involved in an email yesterday that, you know, somebody said, what issues are you talking about? Well, I almost fell out of my chair. I thought, if you're for something and you don't know what the issues are, and I assume he's here today, I don't know him, but I said, well, I'm going to let Ben explain that to you. I mean, if anybody didn't know what the issues were, now not addressing the issues, and by the way, it was 5-2, there was at least one member that voted majorly holding their nose, and that's neither here nor there. I like to build consensus where it's uniform, it's together, and we worked out these little things or whatever. This reminds me a lot of the horse riding. You know, we heard a lot about the horse riding in Cold Spring and everything. We decided, you decided, no, that doesn't fit that or whatever, and we eliminated it. Nothing wrong with that. You know, is there someplace else to go with this? I don't know. Then you talk about the chamber saying, well, this is good for the economy and everything else, and yet you said, I think, well, we don't want this wide open without having some plan that we don't become. So all those things, again, I don't want to be the one working that out. I'm not on the park commission. But I'm not going to approve a plan willy-nilly without having some of that stuff worked out. So you can move forward with this, and we can say it's a plan and vision and everything else, but when you see a map, and I've been through enough of this, in building a trail, when the power line came through, in 1970s, when they showed a map and there was a line there. The line didn't go where the original line was, but the power line still went up. And so when people see things in a plan, on a map, it's gonna happen, and that makes people nervous. And I think a better approach would be to say, yes, it's gonna happen, but this is how it's gonna happen, where it's gonna happen, and get that buy-in, and then come with a plan that everybody can support. So that's my 5.5 cents worth.
Okay, with that being said.
I'll just close, Mr. Chair. Oh, go ahead.
So I haven't gotten to go yet.
Okay,
Okay,
go ahead.
Commissioner
Although
Clark.
I'm willing to not go if we're going to vote, but I absolutely can add.
Well,
So it depends. If you're going to add, then I will actually.
my question is, are we finished? My question would be, could we have a public hearing? Could we hear from our people?
I'd like to go ahead and make my comments.
Okay, then go ahead.
And sorry, I know the time is getting long. So I really want to, I want to thank everybody who's worked on this. There has been robust public conversation, robust open opportunity to give input. And I think what Commissioner Johnson said about it being a vision is a good one. There are placements on here so people have an idea about what's going on. This has ongoingly been such a special place because it is that combination of recreation and really, nature designation. And so as I've been looking at it, and certainly this board has approved going forward on the bike trails in the past, I both trust and believe you that we will get a chance to keep working along the way. That is important. All of the items, so I'm not going to spend 10 minutes talking about all of the items, Ben, that you've talked about, why it's so important we're looking at it. But for just a few notes is that, again, it was a hazard. This has become really a recreational and a scenic designation. And so there's that balance there. I hold the environmental pieces very high in here, and I personally continue to be concerned about how much buckthorn we have out there, right? Like, we can't have the kind of diversity until that's removed in terms of additional flora and fauna. I mean, that's a big part of it. So, when we're looking at what the plan is going forward, it doesn't have major changes or deviation from where it was 30 years ago. It is going to include some agreement, some looking at how can we add those trails. Given it's been 30 years and we don't have a visitor center, clearly not everything is going to go in there, but it does give people an opportunity to see what the pieces that they are interested in. So some of this isn't natural. Having accessible opportunities isn't natural, but it's important. And I was looking at the data, we have in here just over 15,000 of our population in our county, not regionally, our county alone, lives with a disability. That doesn't include people who may also have mobility challenges, that don't have a disability, who perhaps are older. It doesn't include people who have babies, who maybe are carrying them right now in their arms or, in something. But I can remember as a young mom how important it was to have places that I could go with a stroller. This is something that could be useful. Those lights that we talked about, it doesn't bring people in to see our wonderful nature, but it brings people in and for them to have a good experience. Same with the swimming. Same with, us looking at some of those other opportunities. So it is that balance, and this vision is putting the environment very high up and recognizing the opportunities for the other. I do think there has been a lot of opportunity for public input, and I agree that along the way, there will be more as we do any other phases, and that will continue to be important. I have heard almost as much on this as I have on the rifle shotgun, and the overwhelming amount of people have actually been saying they would like to see these trails, and they want to make sure that we do it in an environmentally responsible way. So I think, we had an article from Dr. Williams a few weeks back about the word and how powerful that is. We have to be able to figure out how to accommodate and respond to concepts that are not always in the same, yes. We have to figure that out, and I think this plan does it. And I guess the last thing I'll say on it, and this will be my Bertramism for the day, is our granddaughters are very much into Gabby's Dollhouse. And one of their songs on Gabby's Dollhouse is The Power of Yet. I can't do division yet. I don't want to do this yet. In this plan, we might not have everything figured out yet, but we will get there because those are the details. The details are not part of the vision. We'll have to work there and get there eventually, right? So.
If I can just add, no matter what, this is a vision or a plan, but whenever you bring a concept forward, usually there's a public hearing involved with whatever the plan, the concept or idea would be, correct? I mean, most of it's going for grant monies, but.
Yeah, most of it's going for grant monies, and that's where the discussion happens at the Park Commission level and then comes based off of a recommendation from them to the county board. For instance, with the Kramer Lake Wildwood Phase 1 this last summer, we did host a public meeting before we move forward with any of the amenities that we were proposing. So yes, going forward, we're always reviewing. We always want to have those conversations, and we're not just walking through the door saying, here, do this tomorrow. That's not. And yes, I 100% agree that I think the overall concept of the master plan is getting lost. We're seeing lots of good other things in there over the one item. And we've had lots of conversation about that one item, but there's more conversation that will happen and has to occur before any of that happens.
And along with that, if some of us remember the Kramer Lake concept was not unanimous either. I mean, the people that lived out there didn't want any kind of access for fishing or, any of that, so there was a conception or a plan for that as well, but, there was a lot of open discussion about what it should look like. Should this be allowed? Should this be allowed? And I see this as the same thing. It's kind of a vision, and, in the future, we'll see where that vision goes, and it might totally change.
Mr. Chair, I did have a couple closing comments, and that is, as far as the public input, the last two Park Commission meetings, we had a number of people, half dozen people in opposition to it. They were not allowed to speak because it was on the agenda. And so if you really, as you said, we've heard from the public, what would be wrong with having the public come here and tell us how they feel about this? The only thing we got are these emails zipping back and forth at us. That's the only thing we've got. What would it really hurt if we just open it up and let people come to the microphone and say, this is what I feel, here's where we should go with this, and hear for ourselves where it's at. Likewise, the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission voted 5-2 to approve it. But again, we didn't ferret out the issue of, are we really looking at 7 miles of trail, or is that only a concept that, well, we can change it and have less? If we go ahead and approve it, then we go ahead and we have applications for grant money to move it forward. Do we want a split decision on the board to go to the DNR? Do we want a split decision on the Planning Commission or Park Commission to go to the board? Do we want opposition of letters coming from the community and from the DNR saying, don't do this project? Project won't get approved. I think we need to be in harmony on this, and therefore I think we need to hold off and not approve the plan as is. We need the environmental work in, and we need to complete more public input. That's where I am with it.
Okay, Commissioner Johnson.
I don't think we'll ever reach unanimity on a plan like this.
Yeah.
There are too many aspects to it. I also believe that consensus is not unanimity. Consensus is the majority stating their position, agreeing, and those who may not agree, supporting some item once it's approved. And I think that's the important part.
Absolutely.
And that's the part that we would take to any other agency, is the ultimate support of the decision that was made, whether we voted for it or not. I think that's important. We can't, there are so many things out there from a political perspective. We will never have unanimity on any issue. And I guess I'll stop with that. I think your comment is a good one, Joe. We don't want people writing negative letters, but at the same time, I think the board can be united once we've gone through this. Relative to environmental impact studies and those kinds of things, I don't think that's part of approving this vision. I think that's the next step when we decide what it is that we're going to look at together. And I think that's where you have the public who are interested join in and participate. And you're going to have lots of mountain bikers if you're talking about trails. You're going to have lots of environmentalists. And I think I'd be on both sides there talking about it, but they're going to work it out together. And my earlier example, I don't think we should ever have 40 intersections on a trail where people are going at the speeds that they are. But that's a detail that we just can't answer right now. We can't figure it out. We can set goals as we tackle each issue.
And to tag along to that, it's no different than when we had the airport conversation. It's 3-2, but it's one of those things. Now we have to figure out how to make it work. And I think, again, this is the concept, but it's not a final plan. I think there's a lot more that's going to go into before anything really takes effect. So, we have a motion and a second to adopt or approve the updated master plan for Quarry Park. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Roll call.
Commissioner Clark,
Aye.
Commissioner Persky,
Nay.
Commissioner Bertram,
Nay.
Commissioner Johnson, Commissioner Notch.
Aye.
Passes 3-2.
Thank you. Thanks for the lively discussion, and I'm confident this is going to come forward step by step. The mountain biking thing might not even be something that shows up for years. I mean, something else might rise to the top, but whoever's on this board will deal with them as they come forward, just like with other ordinances we deal with. We just dealt with tobacco, all kinds of things. We'll have more things coming forward as well. So thank you, everyone, for the good discussion.
Mr. Chair, if I could, just one more thing. It's quick. So this Saturday, we're inviting the public out to Quarry Park for Kids to Parks Day. There's no parking fee associated with that. There's going to be lots of different things for people to be involved with and to enjoy, from a rock climbing wall to peregrine falcon displays and things like that. So if you're free, please come out to Quarry Park, May 16th from 10 to 2.
Thanks, Ben. And I believe the last item is administration. Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will be brief, I think. It's a quick summary of the project here. You can see that we're basically filling in almost the entire county with fiber to the premise service, and we have one really glaring hole there, which is Lake Henry Township. Lake Henry Township did not participate in the program, and so the Arvik project and the Runestone project have them surrounded, but very little service except for what you see in the northwest corner and far northeast corner of Lake Henry Township. The reason that I'm bringing this up is that Lake Henry Township has become engaged with their township board and with us in trying to get fiber service throughout the township. There is both in our Arvik project and our Runestone project and in our Albany Telco project, we are going to see some refunds of the dollars that were put in. Both the state is going to see refunds and we're going to see refunds simply because the projects didn't cost as much as the original estimates, which is good. So that money is going to come back to us. We really, if we don't spend it by the end of the year, it will go back to the federal government. But we could continue to spend it on the Broadband project. And there's 2 upcoming grant rounds, and they're not border to border like we've typically been using. They're called the Line Extension Program. And within that process, landowners sign up. And so their premise shows up on the state map, and then providers can then bid on providing service to those premises, and they can get a portion of the project paid for by the state. Some of the residents in Lake Henry Township got activated, and they got a lot of people on that map, which is a good thing. And both Arvig and Runestone are interested in making applications for portions of Lake Henry Township. So my question for the board, originally I thought I could bring back a recommendation, but my question is simply, and I have more information after this, but my question is really, is the board interested in continuing to fund with using those excess funds to help Lake Henry Township out here? And if so, do you want to require the township to contribute as well? And the township originally was asked for $17,025, which was half of its ARP dollars at the time. This is just the whole project, and it shows that we expect to have at least $1 million in refunds coming back. This is almost the whole township here, and you can see the village there of Lake Henry, and what the darkened, I don't know what color they are. The darkened areas are what Arvig is going to likely propose in the line extension project. So I think there's 12 parcels, premises within those 3 areas. And Kent with Runestone and I have been calling this the Duck. So this is their proposed area, which is obviously covering a lot larger area. Both companies are willing to expand those areas if possible with additional funding. And both of these projects will set them up to do another line extension application this fall. So right now there's a state line extension program, and this particular program is also using excess funds that have to be spent by the end of the year. So if Runestone, for example, is successful with this project, this project has to be built by the end of the year. So good, quick project. The next one would be kind of a more normal process where they would do their bids this fall. It would probably take a couple months to sort out who the winners are, and then they would do permitting throughout the winter and likely build in 2027. And so, as you can see, the Runestone one is going to cover a larger area. Likely the next project then would be Runestone. I don't think Arvig would go around them because they're focused on the north end. But in either case, whichever one might be approved sets up at least for additional premises to be covered through the next line extension program. If we wanted to get involved, I think the thing to do is whatever company, if let's say Runestone is successful with this project, some of the federal monies that we could repurpose could be used to reach those farther out premises and set us up even better, maybe to get the entire township covered in the second line extension program. Again, we don't need any action today, but I wanted to bring this up to the board and just get your thoughts if we would be willing to do that, and we should be able to make those decisions about how much and make a deal with with the provider, I would say in late June or early July. Commissioner Notch has been engaged with the township and some of the folks, as I have too, so I don't know if you have anything to say.
No, I mean, they did take it, we met with them, was it a month ago at their township meeting, and they've got some of them are business owners, some of them work remotely, and they do have very serious issues with internet service. I mean, we're standing outside the fire hall and you can't even text anybody, or there's just nothing there. So I mean, kudos to them. They've taken upon themselves. They went around, knocked on doors, got signatures. As Mike mentioned, he said that this is one thing. If you get the signatures that these people say they will take, there's a good chance that one of these providers will say, okay, well, it's worth our while to go do it. So they did that, and now they're going back to the township board basically to see if they'll commit that $17,025, which would be the fairness, because that's what we had asked all the other townships to do. So
Yeah, that's the amount and they're meeting on Wednesday evening.
Tomorrow night, yes.
Yeah, tomorrow night. And the reason I put this map back up is that in every case except one project here, the townships have been required to contribute. Now, if you look at the yellow on the far southeast portion of the county, that's a project there that Vibrant was through the BEAD program, and the board did approve a small amount, $150,000 in that many million-dollar project, just to show that there was local support, and those townships are not necessarily in, but we treated that a little differently, but in all other cases, the townships have been involved, and involved to the amount that our formula provided in the very beginning.
Yeah, Commissioner Clark.
Thank you for your continued work on this and for the work you've done with folks. It's great to hear what has happened there. I do think the fairness standpoint would still hold. So hopefully the township board is hearing from township members.
Well, one of the issues was the citizens, they can see the PED just down the road where the line stops in both Runestone and Arvig's case, but they can't get them. They come that last mile or whatever to get hooked up.
The Arvig, both the projects that this board made happen are really set them up to be served here. The Arvig is coming in from the north, and the Runestone is actually on the township line, right in the middle of the township on the west edge. So both of them are able to continue and get the area served. Unfortunately, the line extension program isn't quite as it's not set up so that you're going to do a whole township, for example. But you can see I think the Runestone project is covering a lot of ground for the line extension program.
Yes, Mike, and I want to.
Commissioner Persky.
Got it. Yes, Mike, and I want to thank you on that. I mean, the amount of broadband we've been able to bring in because of your efforts is just incredible. And as far as getting it complete, is that going to be completed in 26 or 27? Do we have a date?
The bulk of the projects, the Runestone that's the far west, the Arvig that is west central, the Albany that's northeast, and there's it's a little harder to see on this map, but then there's a Vibrant project down in the south. Those will all be completed this year. All those large projects that you approved early on, they will all be completed in this year and are required to be completed this year by us and by the state.
Okay.
The areas, mostly the ones in yellow here, the far southeast and up in Collegeville Township there, those are part of the BEAD program. Those will likely not be constructed until 2027. Okay. The yellow of St. Martin Township is probably a 2028. It's a completely different federal program. And if one of these two line extension programs are approved by the state, they'll be done this year. So they have to fast track permitting and everything. And then if we can get another project in Lake Henry this fall, those would likely be built in 27, perhaps even into 28. I don't know the rules for that one yet. But almost everything you see here is being done this year and next year.
Mr. Chairman.
And most of those, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Most of those early on that I set up will be done this year. They're like 80% done already, 90% done, something like that.
If we remember, we became aware of this through Representative Anderson, who got a call from the Spaniards asking about this, and we pieced it together, and then you started meeting. A number of the residents have contacted me. Township board yesterday, I talked to two of them. I said, my position is going to be that they do have to participate, and they understood that. At least that's the impression I got. It wouldn't be fair to the rest of them if they wouldn't, but the recommendation that Commissioner Notch and I told the residents, get out there and find people that want it, and that's exactly what they did. And this is good government. I mean, I think this fits into, even though it's coming in late, it became, the residents weren't even aware that this was a possibility. Not everybody's as in tune as they maybe should be, but I think this fits and we should do it. But I do believe we need to assess, have the assessment that everybody else paid.
We can go with that.
All right. Thanks, Mike, for that.
We'll be talking about it again, I hope, in late June.
Yeah.
Are you going to be there tomorrow night? The impression I got that you were going to be there tomorrow night, so.
Yep. Yeah, we plan on. Okay, I guess that was our last agenda item. Next up, we have issues by commissioners. Commissioner Johnson, starting on your end.
Thank you. I don't really have anything very specific other than to say that I'm always interested in collaboration, and I noticed we approved that grant, which was a nice collaboration from the public health folks today. I bring it up because I'm oftentimes as we think about county business, I think about things like a federal lobbyist. Could 3 counties share, or 4 counties, whatever the case may be, or housing, or sharing staff? Are there opportunities to do that? Given that we're working on budgets and probably we'll have something preliminarily in September or so?
Oh, yeah, before that.
I think when it comes to budget, we should be thinking about opportunities for collaboration and streamlining things. The other thing I just wanted to mention, and it came up a little bit tonight, this morning. It's already been a long week. When I look at this material, I really want to hear from everybody. I want to talk to people, and sometimes there just isn't enough time because we don't necessarily know the item that's going to be put on the agenda. When we have a 50-page presentation, I'd really like to get a hard copy of that separate from the agenda. I mean, it can obviously be on the agenda, but if something of that kind of significance, I think would be better to be able to ruminate over the thing and write lots of notes and think more about it. It's much easier to do if you actually have it in advance and have a hard copy of it. So that's really all I wanted to share.
Okay, Commissioner Clark.
Thank you. A lot of good and important items on today's agenda. I appreciate what Ben brought up with regard to Commissioner Zachary and his optimism, his collaboration, his ways of working with people, for me, has always been inspiring. So very much appreciate that. Similar, I just want to thank people who have reached out to me with regard to my mom's pretty sudden passing. And we are going to do a celebration this Friday at 4 o'clock where she lived, which is good. But I think for all of us who've seen our family members and for people in the public and our staff, we all have people who have gone through some hard things. Sometimes they need to use a little bit of help from the county. Sometimes it's somebody else in the community. And so just to thank you for all who come together in times that can be kind of hard for folks. But the main thing I wanted to just quickly, because nobody's brought it up yet, is it's the last week of session. It's at least theoretically the last week of session. There's not a lot left in play, but it's honestly really important. I think everybody is kind of stuck on how they can get through this, and everybody's up for election, and lots of people are retiring, and it's important to be getting some things done at the end and figuring out how to bend, because one of the things I love about county work is we have to be pragmatic. We have to figure out how do we get something done. We don't really have the option of punting. And sometimes that's what happens legislatively. People get so focused on their group's particular perspective, or even sometimes their own people, that they forget that we have to make it work for everybody, not just a small group, for everybody. So from a county standpoint, we all got some things from AMC yesterday. Micah has just sent something out as well. You know, our top things have been, for counties, has been the technology modernization. There still seems to be a lot of commitment there, which is great. We all have our legislators being able to do the elevator speech. So the message we're getting from folks is we don't need to do that elevator speech to them anymore. Where the opportunity right now is on SNAP, which is on the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance. There is no way that anybody in their right mind ever thought the counties were going to be expected to help pay for federal benefits. And right now, without a change, which is live and is going to conference committee, that is going to be what happens. So, the short version is making sure that members are hearing that this is not something that should pay for in county property taxes, and that we need them to even just get a little bit of commitment moving forward. That doesn't mean that trying to continue to work on the act isn't important. It might be more likely that we get something done with that next year, though. But the SNAP is a lot of money. And the way to help with error rates is to get the damn technology done. Excuse me, I probably shouldn't say damn in the middle of a board meeting. And then lastly, bonding bill. And that continues to be important for our county and our region. And so if anybody is wondering, this is the time to go bug people. Our delegation's pretty good at listening to folks, so continue to do that, but particularly on the SNAP funds. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Commissioner Clark. Commissioner Persky?
Yeah, as Commissioner Clark mentioned, the finishing up of the session, one thing that came through the Senate a week or two ago was a Bill of Rights for owners and residents of mobile home parks. And I left with you a message that one of our local parks saw a $95 increase in their rent, which put their rent at just over $700. And when you see that they're now charging rent or additional fees for sewer and water and garbage, that, to have your mobile home in one of those parks is $800 a month. Well, the notice that you got is from an individual who gets $1,200 a month. And we've had corporations come in and buy up these parks and basically continue to increase rent. Yet a few weeks ago, that park had a broken water line and they had no water for 2 days. They're not taking that money and helping out the people that live there. They're putting that in their pocket. And this has become predatory. The legislature, the Senate at least took a bill at least to maybe put some parameters on that. But, some of us that saw at one time mobile home living as affordable housing, it's becoming unaffordable housing for many of them. And many of these folks are trapped in that home because they have no place to go, and anything other they can do is write that check every month as it continues to rise. So very unfortunate situation. There may be some things on the county end that we could do perhaps at least to help some of the pain that they have. So we may be looking at that in the future. On the bright side, Randy, I think there was a award that was given out in your department. Is that correct? And very encouraging.
Yeah, so Roxanne Garrett's, our election supervisor, got recognized by her peers at the Secretary of State Training Conference for her work in elections over the 27 years that she's been doing it. So, yeah. I think that's going to come to the board later.
I think we'll We'll celebrate that a little bit at our next board meeting.
Sounds good, but I tell you, I really appreciate your efforts on making our elections the way they are and the quality to see that, things are safe, secure, and run appropriately. So thank you much, and it's a good show. Thank you.
Yes, yeah.
Commissioner Bertram?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Long meeting, so I'm just going to keep it short. Happy Mother's Day to all our mothers at home and up in heaven, and hope all the mothers had a great weekend.
Commissioner Johnson?
I'd just like to add on to what Commissioner Persky said about mobile home parks. I know that's been a passionate issue for you. I heard a lot about it when I was campaigning last summer. We have about 17 mobile home parks in Stearns County, and I'm wondering if we couldn't have a study session or something around that issue and put some meat on the bones of what we should be doing. Bill of Rights, good idea, but
Absolutely.
there may be 3 or 4 things that we can actually do to make some change.
Yeah. And Commissioner Johnson, absolutely. And unfortunately, what happens in these situations is oftentimes, they are cited for a violation, but there's no teeth in the violation. There's no follow-up, as far as shelters, for severe weather. And just another one, taking 5-6 years to complete a shelter, just not acceptable. Yeah.
And sorry, Mr. Chair, along those lines, permitting might be, and licensing might be something we could do. So we've talked about that before, but spending some time thinking about, can we modify that? Yeah.
Yeah, because a lot of these, I'm presuming, are in the city limits, I would guess. I know we have the.
Mr. Chair, that's correct. However, we still do the permitting, and we're responsible for safety and security within those. It goes back to the county, so.
Right, and I believe, weren't they all required a number of years ago to have these storm shelters? I remember Melrose, they waited for this grant money and stuff to get both of those put in. I mean, not to say they're the best looking thing out there, but I guess they can claim to have one for what it's worth. Yeah, so, and that would be probably an item in the future for environmental services or whichever department to review. So, what did I have so last week, I know Commissioner Johnson, Commissioner Clark, and myself, we had all signed up for the nuts and bolts of the boardroom, which, it's the first mini session I've gone to. There's probably 70 commissioners, administrators, staff people there. And it was actually really good because it was a chance to have a little more one-on-one conversation. And I know Jack Swanson from Roseau County and Andrew Letzen, the Meeker County Administrator, did a presentation on good governance, which it was very good. There were a lot of good, I don't know if you want to call them breakout sessions, but speakers who spoke, on different topics. Learned a lot. We did on the last day on Friday get to go down to the Capitol, get a little behind the scenes. They took us into the Supreme Court and went into their conference rooms and got a little history on that. And, then at the end, we met at I think it's Christ Lutheran Church, where we got the revisor's office spoke to us on how, the bills are drafted and done. And then the lobbyist spoke on, how lobbying works. And it was interesting. His first comment is, well, everybody thinks lobbyists are just paid by big oil and stuff like that, but there's actually lobbyists for homeless people. So a lobbyist covers, different lobbyists cover different things. So it was a very, very educational program, that I must say. But other than that, I believe that's all we have, and I will call the meeting adjourned. Thank you.
I'm glad you brought that